My name is Yoon Ji-Hoon. I am 34 years old, and until that night, the strangest part of my life was being paid to write apologies for people who were not sorry. Then I woke up inside a wedding hall on the 13th floor of a department store that had been demolished 17 years ago. The venue was beautiful. That was not comforting. There were invitations on the tables, but the words refused to stay still. I decided this was either a dream, a crime, or a very aggressive wedding package. At the altar stood a woman in black. She looked at me like she had already prepared cross-examination notes. This was my first meeting with Seo Min-Ah. Then, I saw the others. 6 adults. Nobody looked like they had chosen to be there. Everyone looked like life had chosen them by mistake. A child-sized manager wearing a silver moth mask appeared at the aisle entrance and clapped once. The sound was small, polite, and completely unreasonable. The manager said one of us had already used the wish, and everyone else had forgotten what was paid. That is a terrible sentence to hear before coffee. I tried to remain calm. Remaining calm was my profession. Unfortunately, my profession had never included haunted wedding logistics. Seo Min-Ah watched me carefully. I could tell she did not trust me. To be fair, I was dressed as a groom in a cursed building, so her standards were healthy. 3 of the others checked the doors. The doors did not open. Adults become very quiet when architecture refuses negotiation. Near the windows, OU, Rai, and Bakyun, Sue noticed something worse. The glass did not reflect the hall. It reflected somewhere else inside the store. The manager explained the closing rule: leave before 4:44, or someone in the real world would forget you. It was customer service with teeth. The clock had no numbers, but I still understood it was counting down. Some deadlines do not need typography. Then, the manager mentioned room 404, a room that could return one lost thing: a person, a memory, a chance, a confession. Of course, there was only one. Kang Du-yul attempted a joke. Nobody laughed. I respected the room for maintaining emotional consistency. Min-Ah asked why I was dressed as the groom. I wanted to tell her I also found this administratively concerning, but she did not look ready for teamwork. Then the floor reflected my younger sister, Hae-rin, holding a phone, the kind of memory that does not knock before entering. That was when the story pulled backward, before the wedding hall, before the masked manager, before I understood that regret could have operating hours. A few nights earlier, I was alone in the office again. This was normal. My company trusted me with crises because I had no visible personal life to interrupt them. I was editing an apology for a man who had confused guilt with bad publicity. My job was to make his shame sound organized. The window beside my desk reflected a tired man in a suit. I recognized the suit. The man was debatable. In my drawer, I kept one photo of Hae-rin. I told myself it was there because I had no space at home. That was a lie with excellent storage management. My sister had called me once on the night she died. I did not answer. The phone had stopped ringing years ago. My head had not. The client on the phone wanted sympathy without consequence. This is very common among powerful people and toddlers. Toddlers are more honest. After the call, I walked through the empty office. Nobody asked why I was still there. When loneliness becomes predictable, people call it dedication. Then the glass wall began to glow. At first, I assumed sleep deprivation. Then the glow became expensive looking, which made hallucination feel underfunded. I touched it. This was not intelligent, but I had spent the whole night improving another man's apology, so my judgment was already injured. The glass swallowed my hand, then the rest of me. Cold light rushed past. For a moment, every reflection I had avoided looked back. I landed on black marble under a chandelier large enough to bankrupt a small town. The department store around me looked dead, but very well maintained. The moth-masked manager welcomed me as an after-hours guest. I asked whether I could refuse membership. The manager ignored this, which answered the question. I was told the building was Mirae Grand, demolished in 2007. Apparently, demolition had not affected customer operations. The store opened from midnight to 4:44. The manager said this, like any normal business hour, except the penalty involved memory deletion. I reached for the mirror to leave. The manager politely suggested hearing the rules first. I have never hated politeness more. More mirrors opened. Seo Min-Ah, Han Si-ra, and Kang Du-yul arrived through different reflections. None of them looked pleased with the transportation quality. Then came Park Jae-hyun, OU Rai, and Bakyun-soo, a doctor, a piano teacher, and a food critic. The store was either selective or assembling a strange committee. There were 7 of us, 7 adults standing in a dead department store after midnight, pretending not to be scared because everyone had rent and posture. Min-Ah immediately asked for legal clarity. I admired that, not emotionally, of course, administratively. Seo began organizing us within minutes. The ghost store had no human resources department, so naturally she created one. Then, Du-yul recognized me. Years ago, I had written the apology that saved his career and helped bury someone else's pain. I hope the store charged extra for reunions. Rai noticed everything while saying almost nothing. That kind of quiet person is dangerous. They collect evidence while you are busy sounding reasonable. Yoon-soo asked if there was food. The manager said no. I watched a grown man lose faith in architecture. The manager told us each guest had a private room. Each room was shaped by what we refused to return. Nobody liked the grammar of that sentence. Then came the main offer. Room 404 could return one lost thing, a person, a memory, a vanished chance. Hope entered the room and made everyone worse. There was only one wish. 7 adults heard that and immediately became polite competitors. Politeness is just conflict wearing good shoes. The manager showed us the exit mirrors. They led home, as long as we returned before closing. A door is less comforting when it has terms and conditions. The clock moved. Min-Ah and I looked at it at the same time. We had not become allies. We had only developed a mutual respect for not being erased. I left through the mirror before curiosity could become stupidity. This was rare personal growth, and it lasted less than 24 hours. I fell back onto my office floor. The glass wall looked normal. The city looked normal. That was the problem. Normal had become suspicious. The next morning, I woke in my apartment with a headache and a powerful desire to blame dinner. Dinner had a strong alibi. On my mirror, there was a faint silver handprint, mine. The store had left evidence, which felt considerate and deeply rude. Work continued. People sent emails, clients lied, coffee cooled. The world showed no interest in the fact that I had visited a dead department store. I searched Mirae Grand. The record said it had been demolished after a scandal in 2007. Missing heiress, sealed reports. Wedding hall accident. Very normal search results. That same day, Seo Min-Ah won another divorce case. She looked less like a winner and more like someone who had professionally confirmed love can fail. In the courthouse restroom, her mirror briefly glowed. Later, she would say she did not panic. I believe she objected in a controlled manner. Han Si-rae went back to her executive office and made notes. If terror could be formatted into bullet points, Si-ra would defeat it by Tuesday. Kang Du-yul sat alone with old trophies and a dead television reflection. Fame had left him souvenirs, which was not the same as company. Park Jae-hoon heard a phone vibrate during his hospital shift. There was no call. Some guilt does not need signal coverage. Oh, Yuri taught piano to children and tried not to think about the concert hall she had glimpsed in the store. Trying not to want something is still wanting it. Baek-yoon-soo ate alone and could not taste the food. He wrote restaurant reviews for a living. Grief had edited his main qualification. Min-Ah and I passed each other in the rain. We both noticed. We both ignored it. Adults call this maturity when they do not want to call it fear. That night, the office glass opened again. I had every reason not to go back. Unfortunately, reason is quiet, and regret is excellent at marketing. Everyone returned. Nobody admitted they had been waiting for midnight. The store had assembled 7 people who were very committed to denial. We agreed to introduce ourselves. It felt like a networking event hosted by a curse, which made it only slightly worse than most networking events. I said, my name and job, crisis PR writer, a person who turns guilt into acceptable sentences. Min-Ah looked exactly as impressed as that deserved. Min-Ah introduced herself as a divorce lawyer. Her voice was calm enough to make the marble floor reconsider its life choices. Du-yul gave his name with the smile of a man, hoping charm still worked in the after-hours supernatural sector. It did not. Si-ra introduced herself and immediately suggested cooperation. Some people bring snacks to emergencies. Si-ra brought structure. Jae-hin said he was an emergency doctor. He looked like someone who knew how to save strangers and had forgotten how to save himself. Yuri said she taught piano. Her voice was soft. Her eyes were not. I made a note not to lie near her. Yoon-soo said he reviewed restaurants and had brought snacks. At that moment, he became the most important person in the group. After introductions, silence settled between us. We all understood one thing and refused to say it. The store had not chosen happy people. CS, Ra proposed search teams. Min-Ah objected to trusting strangers. I agreed with Min-Ah, which annoyed both of us. The manager showed us a blank receipt and said the key would not begin as a key. Of course, a normal key would have been too emotionally affordable. Then we found the private room hallway. 7 doors waited for us. I had never seen architecture look so personally informed. Behind my door, phones were ringing, not one phone, many. My body knew the sound before my mind admitted it. Min-Ah's door smelled faintly of wedding flowers. She went very still. Some people freeze like cowards. Min-Ah froze like evidence. The others found their doors too. A green room, a nursery, a hospital corridor, a concert hall, a restaurant table. The store had done research. The manager warned us that the rooms showed what we refused to return. That was rude. Accurate, but rude. I opened my door first, because leadership is sometimes just poor impulse control with better posture. Inside was an office full of ringing phones. At the center, one red phone rang louder than the rest. I already knew whose call it was. The room looked exactly like an office, which made it worse. If hell had fluorescent lighting and client retainers, I had found the reception area. At the center was one red phone. I did not need caller ID. Some calls identify themselves by how badly your body wants to leave. Blank apology drafts rose around me. I had written thousands of apologies, but the room had chosen the only one I never attempted. Then, every other phone stopped. The red one continued alone. The store had excellent dramatic timing and no respect for personal boundaries. I picked it up. I did not say hello. I had spent years avoiding this conversation. Etiquette could wait. Haren's voice came through and asked whether I had eaten. Not why I ignored her. Not why I failed. Just whether I had eaten. Cruelty would have been easier. My hand gripped the desk so hard I thought the glass would crack. It did not. Apparently, the furniture was emotionally stronger than I was. An envelope slid toward me. No name, no address. The store understood that my problem was not delivery. It was authorship. I dropped the receiver. The call did not end. That felt accurate. Some conversations continue even after one person leaves the room. Min-Ah found me standing there. She did not ask if I was okay. That would have been inefficient. She simply looked at the phone and understood enough. She told me to leave before the room took more. It was not comfort. It was an order. Strangely, that worked better. Back in the hallway, I said it was nothing. Min-Ah looked at me like she had just watched a man lie badly in a jurisdiction she controlled. Then it was Min-Ah's turn. Her door smelled like wedding flowers. Mine had phones. The store was not subtle, but it was thorough. Her room was a wedding hall, empty chairs, perfect flowers, no groom. Even the silence looked expensive. At the altar, a groom-shaped shadow appeared only when she was not looking directly at it. That is how unfinished goodbyes behave. A wedding dress waited in a sealed bag. Min-Ah did not touch it. Some evidence is too personal to contaminate with fingerprints. Invitations scattered across the aisle. The words were blank, but Min-Ah still looked betrayed. Sometimes absence is the handwriting. Inside the ring box, one ring remained. The other was missing. The store had a gift for making absence look organized. Then she saw him, not fully, just enough to make hope dangerous. Kwaitai, oh, the man who vanished before their wedding. I waited outside. Wedding music came through the door. No instruments, no guests, just the sound of a ceremony, refusing to end. Min-Ah came out and closed the door before I could speak. Her face had returned to normal. Normal, in this case, meant legally reinforced. She told me not to ask. I told her I had not planned to. She said my face had planned to. I had no legal defense. We rejoined the others. Nobody asked directly. Adults are skilled at building entire social systems out of things not said. Seo concluded the rooms were tailored. Uri concluded Min-Ah and I were lying. Uri was probably closer to the truth. From the landing, the manager watched us divide ourselves. The store did not need to trap us. We were bringing our own locks. Du-Yul volunteered next. By volunteered, I mean he smiled until silence forced him to touch the handle. His room was a celebrity green room. Mirrors, lights, blank posters, fame without applause, a very expensive kind of silence. Every mirror showed a different version of him. Rookie, star, scandal, comeback attempt. The lighting was flattering. The truth was not him. An empty makeup chair turned toward him. Du-Yul smiled at it automatically. Celebrities greet cameras, ghosts, and bad decisions with the same muscles. Then, he saw her in the mirror. Hai-jin, the staff member his scandal had swallowed. The room did not applaud. Good. The posters began to fall. No titles, no names, just his face disappearing from paper. For once, cancellation had interior design. I entered before he could compose himself. Du-Yul stepped in front of the mirror. That was unnecessary. The guilt had already entered the room. I asked if he remembered Hai-jin. He said of course. People say, of course, when the real answer is every day. A silver receipt appeared under the mirror. The first clue. It did not look like a key. It looked like a bill. Du-Yul pocketed the receipt and pretended nothing happened. Unfortunately for him, pretending nothing happened was my professional field. He returned smiling. You, re-noticed Yoon-soo. Noticed I noticed. Du-Yul was surrounded by people with no entertainment value for lies. Seppi-Ray's door glowed softly. That seemed kind at first. Soft things can be very cruel when they know your history. Her room was a nursery inside a VIP lounge. The store understood class anxiety and maternal grief. Very ambitious interior design. The crib was empty. Seo stood over it. Like an executive reviewing damage she could not delegate. A drawer glowed under the cabinet says. Ra knelt down slowly, as if the floor had become a board meeting she could lose. Inside were baby socks and a document without words. Seo looked at them like they were both evidence and a sentence. Her younger self appeared in the mirror, not accusing, just holding the socks. Accusation would have been less precise. Ji-Hoon stopped at the doorway. He was a doctor. He knew when entering without permission became another injury. Seo closed the drawer and stood up straighter. Adults call this recovery. Usually, it is just grief finding a better hiding place. She said the room contained nothing useful. Ji-Hoon nodded, like a man who had heard patients say pain was manageable while bleeding on his shoes. 10 minutes later, Sepersi resign search zones. Some people cry. Some people color code the apocalypse. Jae-shu saw the shape in her hand. He said nothing. Silence used properly can be a bandage. We took a break. Nobody relaxed. It was more like 7 people agreeing to sit near their secrets in public. Jaehoon's door gave off hospital light. He smiled politely at it. Doctors are trained to greet bad news with manners. His room was an emergency corridor, empty chairs, ringing phones. The kind of silence hospitals have after families leave. Phones vibrated on every chair. Ji-Hoon walked like each one belonged to a patient. He could still disappoint. At the end of the hall, a curtain moved. Ji-Hoon became very still. Doctors know, curtains can divide before and after. Behind it was an old phone. He knew it immediately. Some objects do not belong to people, they belong to mistakes. A shadow appeared on the curtain. Ji-Hoon did not step back. That was the thing about him. Fear rarely made him selfish. He pressed call. The room did not punish him. It simply waited, which was more frightening. No one answered. He listened anyway. That is not rational. It is human, which is often less efficient. Yoon-soo did not ask what happened. He offered the thermos. Men of a certain age can make tea carry entire paragraphs. The phone became a small silver charm. Another clue. The store was not giving us keys. It was giving us receipts for damage. Ji-Hoon came back with Yoon-soo beside him. Something in Sekche's face shifted. Not softened exactly, more like a locked door considering maintenance. Yuri's door gave off warm stage light. She smiled as if this was fine. It was the least convincing performance in the store. Her room was a concert hall. One piano, one spotlight, no audience. For some people, that is heaven. For Yuri, it was an invoice. She sat down but did not play. The piano waited. Pianos are patient in a way people rarely deserve. Applause began from empty seats. Yuri looked furious. Compliments are not kindness when they arrive after the rent is due. On the piano lid, a younger Yuri appeared in a recital dress. Adult Yuri looked away first. The younger one had better posture and worse timing. She played one note, just one. The hall dimmed, like it had been holding its breath for years. Min-Ah listened from the doorway. She did not interrupt. Lawyers understand silence when evidence is still forming. A silver piano key appeared on the stand. Yuri stared at it like it had asked for tuition. Yuri came out and told Min-Ah she liked me. Calmly, without malice. Some people commit violence with excellent diction. Min-Ah avoided looking at me for the next 10 minutes. I noticed, I misunderstood the reason, which was very efficient of me. Yoon-soo's door smelled like soup. He went very quiet. I had learned by then that quiet meant the store had aimed well. His room was a table for 21, chair waited like someone had just stepped away. Grief is very good at setting a table. One bowl was warm. Yoon-soo sat down slowly. For a food critic, hope can arrive as steam. In the window, a hand appeared across from him. Not a face, not a miracle, just enough to hurt accurately. He tasted the soup and cried without moving much. Some people break loudly. Yoon-soo had the manners to collapse in lowercase. A blank recipe card folded itself into a silver spoon. Another symbol. The store was turning private grief into inventory. Yoon-soo came out and handed me a snack. He did not explain anything. Apparently, feeding people was how he survived continuing. By then, several of us had found objects. Nobody said so immediately. Trust is difficult when the prize can return the dead. The lights flickered. Closing warning. Nothing improves teamwork like the threat of being deleted from someone's memory. We moved toward the mirrors. Not running. Adults with dignity do not run unless the situation becomes athletic. It was close. Then Do-yeol stopped. His pocket glowed. I looked at him, then at the clock, and understood our first real problem. The store had started charging interest. Do-yeol stopped in front of the mirror. His pocket glowed. I had seen clients hide many things before, but rarely objects that threatened group memory deletion. The manager did not shout. That was worse. The manager simply stood under the clock, as if the store had already filed the paperwork. I saw the receipt. Blank, silver, glowing like guilt with stationary preferences. Do-yeol had found a clue and hidden it from us. Min-Ah moved first. She grabbed Do-yeol's sleeve and dragged him toward the mirror. Legally, I am unsure what that was. Emotionally, it was leadership. Do-yeol disappeared through the mirror, 1 second before it darkened. He did not thank her. Terror is poor at manners. Min-Ah and I reached the mirrors last. We were not partners. We were just two people with excellent timing and poor emotional availability. When we left, the manager stayed behind. I did not see this part, of course, but later, I understood the store was always watching the leftovers. I came back to the office floor and checked the time. 4:43. My body filed a complaint. My brain marked it urgent. Do-yeol returned home, with the receipt still in his pocket. That meant the store let evidence leave. This was either generosity or bait. The next morning, Do-yeol's manager called and asked who he was. Not as a joke. The store had taken one person from his life and left the schedule intact. His phone still worked. The contact did not. Technology had accepted the supernatural edit without even asking for an update. Do-yeol stared at the TV reflection. For once, he did not perform for the glass. The penalty was real. Worse, it was neat. Do-yeol called me before lunch. He sounded like a man who had discovered consequences and found them poorly managed. I told Min-Ah what happened. She did not ask if I was sure. She asked for sequence, timing, and witnesses. Romance was not yet a concern. Documentation was. That night, everyone returned. Do-yeol looked pale. The rest of us looked at him like a warning label with cheekbones. He told us his manager forgot him. Nobody spoke for a moment. Then, Sira asked whether the forgetting was permanent. Practical people are useful and frightening. See, Ra interrogated Du Yul with the calm of a quarterly review. He looked like a department, underperforming in honesty. Du Yul finally placed the receipt on the table. It was blank. Somehow, that made it more accusatory. Then Jae-hoon, Yu-ri, and Yoon-soo revealed their objects too: a receiver, a piano key, a spoon. We had gone from haunted tourism to inventory control. Min-Ah said nothing. I noticed her closed fist. She noticed me noticing. This was our relationship at the time, mutual surveillance with good lighting. Sira proposed real-world research. The idea was simple: before trusting a dead department store, learn how it died. Very sensible. Also very late. Sira assigned Min-Ah and me together. Min-Ah objected with her eyes. I objected internally, where it was safer. Du Yul was told to share what he knew about his father's security job. He agreed too quickly, which is one of the classic shapes of not agreeing. We left early that night. Nobody mocked the schedule. Fear is an excellent calendar application. The next day, Min-Ah brought me to a legal archive. She handled documents like weapons. I handled them like apologies, waiting to be written. The record said Mirae Grand had 12 public floors. The photo showed a wedding hall above them. Apparently, even buildings can lie on paper. Min-Ah found a sealed incident report. Her expression changed. Lawyers dislike sealed records the way doctors dislike hidden bleeding. I found old advertising material. The slogan was blurred in the copy, but every archive summary repeated the same idea: nothing lost cannot be returned. Then, Min-Ah went still. She had found Tayo connected to Mirae Grand. Her missing fiancé had not vanished from the story. He had been waiting inside it. She hid the file. I saw her do it. She saw me see it. We were making excellent progress as terrible partners. We argued in whispers because the archive demanded silence. This made the fight more intimate, which was inconvenient and therefore ignored. Afterward, we stood by the window and said nothing. Silence is sometimes mature, sometimes it is two cowards sharing weather. Du Yul visited his father. On the bedside table was an old security cap from Mirae Grand. The past had been living closer than he admitted. For 1 second, his father looked at him like a stranger, then recognition returned. Du Yul laughed. The laugh did not survive the room. In the drawer, Du Yul found an old floor map. A shaded level sat above the public floors. No label, no explanation, just a secret with architecture. Jae-hoon checked old emergency records during his break. He called it research. His untouched coffee called it obsession. He found a case photo of a young girl from the incident. The face was blurred. Somehow, that made it feel more personal. Yu-ri found an old recital program connected to Mirae Grand. Apparently, even her abandoned dream had a branch office in the curse. Yoon-soo found one of his wife's old reviews. Mirae Grand Food Court opening month. He read it like scripture and evidence. CRA searched adoption records alone. She placed the baby socks beside the laptop like a witness. That was the closest she came to praying. Her mother called. The conversation was normal until Sira noticed one thing missing: the childhood nickname her mother always used. One word had vanished. That was enough. That night, we brought everything back. Photos, maps, clippings, old records. The table looked like a detective board without the optimism. Du Yul showed us the map. Min-Ah compared it to the archive photo. Sappa made the face of a woman who had discovered a building lying on its Arasum. Jae-hoon's case photo changed the air. I looked at the manager. The mask looked the same. That became suspicious. The manager refused to answer, politely. I was starting to learn that politeness was the store's favorite weapon. Yu-ri noticed the manager's glove tighten. She did not announce it. Yu-ri collected truths, the way other people collect receipts. Then we argued about the symbols. Sharing them was logical. Keeping them was human. This is why humans require so many meetings. Min-Ah finally placed a ring on the table. One ring, not two. She looked at it like it had testified without permission. 5 objects glowed together. Receipt, receiver, piano, key, spoon, ring. A strange collection. Very elegant, completely unhelpful. Ra counted 5 objects. 2 were missing. 1 was mine. The room had given me a red phone, not a symbol. Apparently, I had failed even at being haunted efficiently. We decided to search for the 13th floor. The public records denied it existed. The store, naturally, had many feelings about denial. The escalator did not move. We walked. Sepru said, "This was inefficient." Min-Ah said nothing. I focused on not breathing like a man with office lungs. Behind us, Du Yul kept checking the map. Yu-ri kept checking. Du Yul, Yoon-soo kept checking whether anyone needed water. Priorities reveal people. At the top was a blank wall, no door, no hallway, no sign. The 13th floor had the manners to be secretive and the confidence to be rude. Min-Ah held up the ring. A seam appeared in the wall. I chose not to comment on the symbolism. I enjoy survival. The other objects glowed too. The store had finally become the kind of puzzle rich people would pay to escape from. The wall opened. Behind it was a service corridor. The 13th floor existed. It simply preferred not to be listed. We entered first. Behind the luxury walls were pipes, dust, and silence. Every elegant place has a service corridor. So does every elegant person. Du Yul found a staff elevator. He recognized it too quickly. He noticed us noticing. Our group was becoming efficient at suspicion. We crowded into the staff elevator. 7 adults, 1 secret map, 5 glowing objects, and no emotional legroom. Min-Ah and I stood too close because the elevator was small. This was not romantic. It was square footage. My pulse disagreed due to poor training. The elevator dropped, not rose, dropped. Sierra said that was not aligned with our objective. This was technically true. The doors opened in the basement archive. The store had ignored our destination and selected its own agenda. I found this familiar from clients. The archive basement smelled like water, paper, and decisions hidden by committees. Sekira looked almost comfortable. Min-Ah and Uri found a sealed box marked with a moth shape. No words. The store loved branding as long as it avoided accountability. Yuan, Sue noticed water moving uphill. Nobody liked this. Water should not be more motivated than the group. The box opened by itself. At this point, self-opening evidence was still unsettling, but we were becoming professionally adaptable. Inside was a photograph. 7 younger people stood in Mirae Grand. We looked at the photo, then at each other. The math was rude. Then, I saw Ha-Rin near the edge of the photo, my sister, standing in a place she should never have known. I stepped back. Min-Ah reached out, then stopped. She respected the distance. I hated how grateful I was. The manager appeared at the end of the aisle. The timing was not suspicious. It was aggressively suspicious. The manager warned us that return memories could damage the living. Min-Ah asked who decides that. The manager did not answer. That answered enough. I asked why my sister was in the photo. I did not ask politely. This was a personal development milestone. For 1 second, Ha-Rin's face appeared in the manager's mask. Then it vanished. The store had answered without permission. The lights failed. The photo began to burn without fire. I held on. Sometimes stupidity and love used the same hands. Water rose around our shoes. Yoon-Soo looked personally offended again. I respected his consistency. Min-Ah covered the photo with her sleeve and pulled me back. She did not say she was helping me. She was simply preventing evidence loss. Very romantic, according to no one. For the first time, all 7 of us moved like one group. Not friends. Not yet. More like strangers with synchronized survival instincts. We rode up in silence. The symbols glowed. The photo survived. Nobody accused anyone for almost dying. Growth technically. Back in the lobby, the photo had changed. One person was missing from it now. The store was not showing us history. It was editing the draft. The photo had changed. One person was gone, not torn out, not scratched away, removed cleanly. The store edited memory like a professional coward. I kept staring at Ha-Rin in the photo. Min-Ah kept staring at me. She was either worried or building a case. With Min-Ah, those could overlap. S.E. Ray said the missing person might be someone fully erased. She made it sound like a logistics issue. That was how C-Ray prevented herself from shaking. Du-Yul placed his father's map beside the photo. The map still had the hidden floor. Apparently, paper remembered what people did not. The manager watched from the landing. The mask gave away nothing. That was the problem. Nothing is also a statement when someone practices it that much. Min-Ah asked who had been removed. The manager said some returns require missing records. Min-Ah looked ready to cross-examine a child-sized nightmare. The manager said, memory has a carrying capacity. I disliked how that sounded both fake and medically billable. I asked again about Ha-Rin. This time, I did not manage my tone. My profession had finally become unavailable. Min-Ah stepped between us. She said anger was useful only if it survived until evidence did. Annoyingly, this was correct. Yuri noticed the mask crack. She did not announce it. Yuri had the terrifying patience of someone who had taught children piano. We agreed to search the hidden floor again. Trust had not improved. The situation had simply become more expensive to ignore. Sierra assigned custody of the objects. Yoon-Soo tracked them. The haunted department store had finally achieved basic governance. Du-Yul tried to apologize. He got through 3 words and collapsed into charm. I recognized the technique. I had invoiced for it. I told him real apologies cost something. He stared at me. It was unfair advice from a man who had avoided paying his own bill. Min-Ah heard me. Her expression changed slightly. Not forgiveness. More inconvenient than that. Curiosity. We checked the clock before moving. Nobody wanted another penalty. Getting erased by negligence had lost its novelty. We returned to the blank wall. 5 objects glowed. 2 were still missing. The store opened anyway, which felt less like permission and more like bait. The wall opened halfway. C-Ray called this a partial access condition. I called it a wall with attitude. The corridor beyond was lined with covered wedding portraits. Min-Ah walked faster. I pretended not to notice. This was becoming a theme. She uncovered one portrait. A bride and groom stood faceless. Min-Ah said nothing. The painting also said nothing. They were both very committed. Her ring began to glow. She closed her hand around it immediately, as if light could be cross-examined into silence. She hid the ring again. I noticed again. Our partnership was developing consistency, which is not always the same as progress. Sierra found a brass plaque scratched clean. No names, no dates. A wedding portrait with no people and a plaque with no words. Mirae Grand loved commitment issues. The others joined us. Yoon-Soo brought the thermos. I no longer questioned this. In a crisis, reliable T becomes infrastructure. The corridor led to a wedding planning office. Dead flowers, blank albums, fabric samples. Love, apparently, also has back-office operations. Rai opened a wedding album. Every page was blank. She said that was rude. Min-Ah did not disagree. Then a face began forming on the page. Tai-O, not clear, not complete, but enough to hurt her breathing. Min-Ah closed the album before the face finished. Sometimes, hope is harder to look at than loss. I asked why she hid Tai-O's file. She said it was personal. I said everything here was personal. Neither of us enjoyed being correct. Ra interrupted before the argument became emotionally productive. She had found a locked cabinet, which was safer than feelings. The symbols reacted to the cabinet. The cabinet stayed shut. 5 clues were not enough. The store had become a group project with missing members. Then I heard a phone ringing inside the cabinet. My phone, my room, my missing symbol had followed us like unpaid debt. Min-Ah's ring pulled toward the cabinet too. Her missing fiancé and my sister were somehow behind the same door. That was not comforting. Do-Yul found a hidden staircase on the map. He looked relieved to be useful. Guilt enjoys tasks. They delay confession. The wall panel opened. Behind it was a narrow stairwell. Mirae Grand had more secrets than a family-owned corporation, which was saying something. Min-Ah, Do-Yul, and I went first. This was a poor arrangement. 2 people distrusted him, and one of them was him. Wedding music drifted up from below. Yuri said, the tempo was wrong. Nobody asked why she knew. We simply became more worried. A clock hand shadow crossed the wall. There was no clock. The store had begun reminding us of closing time through architecture, which felt excessive. Min-Ah slipped. I caught her wrist. It was not romantic. It was gravity management. Again, my pulse lacked professionalism. For 1 second, we were too close. Then, Min-Ah pulled her wrist back and thanked me like a court document. The stairs opened into wedding storage, covered mannequins, boxed flowers, old chairs. Love had been packed away by department. Yuri and Do-Yul walked between covered mannequins. Do-Yul said nothing. When a celebrity stops performing near an audience, you should worry. Ra inspected the storage system. Yoon-Soo watched the mannequins. This was a useful division of labor, bureaucracy, and survival. Jae-hin checked one mannequin for a pulse. Nobody mocked him. We had all made worse decisions in the last week. Min-Ah uncovered a bride mannequin with her hairstyle and no face. She covered it again immediately. Reasonable. Then I saw the groom suit from the wedding hall. My size, my cut. I disliked how the store had better tailoring than consent. The tag was blank. Somehow, that was worse than seeing my name. A blank space has ambition. Min-Ah found one man's shoe in a box. She knew it. That recognition passed across her face before she could stop it. Tapio appeared in a mirror gap. Not enough to prove anything. Enough to make Min-Ah forget the rest of us for one breath. I saw her face after Tai-O vanished. It was not romantic pain. It was worse. It was unfinished life. A mannequin turned toward Do-Yul and Uri. Do-Yul whispered something unhelpful. Uri told him. The mannequin had heard worse. The aisles narrowed. The mannequins did not attack. They simply reduced our options. Very corporate. Ra found an exit path and began issuing instructions. If the store wanted panic, it should not have invited management. I held the cover aside for Min-Ah. She noticed. She said nothing. Gratitude, in our language, was mostly logistics. The shoe became a second ring. Min-Ah's wish had gained its missing half. Her face said, this was not good news. I agreed with her face. The 2 rings flashed toward me. Min-Ah looked offended. I also felt the system had made an inappropriate assumption. We escaped storage and found a glass elevator, because apparently, the store believed trauma should come with a view. The manager was already inside. Nobody asked how. Some questions only encouraged the building. The manager said, the elevator only moved when someone told one true thing. Min-Ah and I looked at each other. This was hostile engineering. Everyone reacted differently. Ra calculated risk. Do-Yul looked unwell. Rai looked entertained in a morally neutral way. Sero said she was afraid. The elevator did not move. Apparently, technical truth was not sufficient. This offended her deeply. Do-Yul admitted he hid the receipt because he wanted the wish first. The elevator hummed. It appreciated ugly honesty. The elevator moved a few feet. Not much. Enough to prove the rule worked. Do-Yul looked betrayed by his own emotional usefulness. Then, it stopped between floors. The store had accepted one confession as a down payment. The stop pushed Min-Ah and me together again. Not romantic. The elevator had poor suspension and suspicious narrative instincts. Min-Ah told me not to misunderstand. I said I was blaming the elevator. She said that was acceptable. Uri watched us with the expression of a person saying nothing professionally. I feared her more than the elevator. Yoon-Soo said he sometimes resented living longer than his wife. The elevator moved. Nobody commented. Some truths deserve no decoration. The elevator rose again, not smoothly, but enough. Apparently, grief had better vertical mobility than denial. Jae-Hoon said he was angry at the patient for dying before he could fix it. He looked ashamed. The rest of us looked human. Uri said she hated students who still had futures. She said it softly. That made it worse and more honest. Seo said, she sometimes hoped the child she gave up never searched for her. The elevator moved. Seo looked offended by her own honesty. We were near the top. 6 confessions had moved us. The elevator still refused to open. Everyone looked at Min-Ah and me. Terrible teamwork. The group waited. Min-Ah and I became the obvious problem. This was unfair, accurate, and socially uncomfortable. Min-Ah said she was afraid Tai-Oh left because he saw who she really was. The elevator moved. I hated that the machine understood her pain before I did. For once, I did not make a dry comment. This surprised both of us, though Min-Ah had the dignity not to mention it. Then it was my turn. I said, I did not miss Ha-Rin's call by accident. I saw it. I let it ring. Ha-Rin appeared in the glass. She was holding the red phone. I wanted her to look angry. She looked worried about me. That was worse. I said work was easier than answering her. Easier than being needed. Easier than being a brother. The elevator finally moved. The doors opened. The hidden wedding hall waited beyond them, so did the groom suit. Mine. Apparently, the store had accepted our truths and prepared the next insult. The elevator opened onto the wedding hall from my first memory. The groom suit waited beside the aisle. The store had a talent for callbacks and harassment. I recognized the suit, the cut, the collar. Even the way the jacket waited looked accusatory. Min-Ah found a veil on the altar. Her rings glowed. The store had apparently mistaken trauma for event planning. The manager said this hall stored ceremonies that never reached an ending. Yoon Soo quietly said that was not how storage should work. He was right. My reflection was wearing the groom suit before I was. That felt like a violation of both physics and tailoring consent. Min-Ah's reflection wore the veil. Real Min-Ah did not move. I respected her ability to reject supernatural styling without blinking. Uri said the wedding march was playing backward. Yoon Soo said the table was setting itself incorrectly. Both observations felt equally important. Seo found a wedding planner. Ji-Hoon found hospital wristbands inside. Mirae Grand had poor filing boundaries. A spotlight found Du Yul. He smiled automatically. His survival instincts were sponsored by variety television. The empty chairs filled with covered mannequins. The ceremony had found an audience. None of us appreciated the attendance rate. Then the red phone appeared on the altar beside Min-Ah's rings. My sister, her fiancé, won ceremony. The store had become too organized. The phone rang once. Every mannequin turned toward me. I had never missed office privacy more. I moved toward the phone. Min-Ah stopped me. She said the store wanted me to answer in public. I hated how strategic my pain had become. Min-Ah's rings floated toward the phone. She looked personally offended. I understood. Our grief had begun collaborating without consent. The manager clapped once. The hall brightened. Apparently, the store considered our emotional objections non-binding. The groom mannequin stepped forward. I made a note to stop trusting clothes. This was a new but reasonable boundary. The veil moved toward Min-Ah. She stood still. That woman could stare down haunted fabric like a senior partner. The others stepped in. Nobody announced teamwork. Adults rarely do. They just block the haunted objects and pretend it is practical. The symbols rose and spun above us. Still no key. The store was making a point. Incomplete people cannot open complete doors. Then the aisle became a mirror. Inside it, Tai-Oh walked through Mirae Grand years earlier. Min-Ah stopped breathing first. Tai-Oh looked younger in the reflection. Alive, tired, determined. Min-Ah watched him like blinking would be betrayal. The memory showed Tai-Oh entering through a mirror. He had been invited too. He had not left Min-Ah for another woman or another life. He had left through glass. The manager was there too. Same mask, same uniform, less cracked. I wondered how many versions of customer service one curse could survive. Tai-Oh received the same offer. One return, one room, one price. The store recycled pain with impressive sustainability. Min-Ah reached toward the memory. I told her not to touch it. This was hypocritical from a man who touched haunted office glass, but growth requires inconsistency. The memory jumped. Tai-Oh found the same photo we found. 7 younger figures, Ha-Rin near the edge, he knew before us. Ha-Rin appeared to him too, in a mirror, holding the red phone. My sister had been warning people from inside reflections. That was when I understood. Ha-Rin was not only my regret, she was part of the store's map. Tai-Oh reached the corridor where room 404 should have been. The door did not appear. The store makes people work for disappointment. Tai-Oh asked to return Min-Ah's future, not his own. Min-Ah went silent beside me. Even her breathing became careful. Min-Ah did not cry. Technically, one tear considered leaving and was detained by pride. The manager showed him 8 reflections, 7 dim, 1 bright. The price was not simple. In Mirae Grand, love came bundled with collateral damage. Tai-Oh accepted. Whatever the condition was, it made him disappear from Min-Ah's path. Not because he stopped loving her, because he did. Min-Ah reached into the memory. This was exactly what I told her not to do. Her legal respect for my advice remained low. The pool grabbed her. I held on. For once, nobody commented on the physical closeness. Survival had temporarily defeated awkwardness. The others pulled us back. Du Yul complained about his shoulder while helping. This was his most honest contribution so far. The pool closed. Silver stains remained on the aisle. The store cleaned up badly for a place obsessed with presentation. Afterward, Min-Ah sat on the floor. I stayed near her, not close. I was learning that rescue does not give you rights. She said Taeyo's name, just once. In that hall, it sounded less like longing and more like evidence being admitted. Then, the red phone slid to my feet. The store was fair in the worst way. Min-Ah had faced her ghost. Mine wanted equal scheduling. I looked at the phone. Min-Ah looked at me. Neither of us said hurry. For once, the silence was kind. Ha-rin appeared in the phone's shine, not angry, not accusing. I was beginning to resent the kindness of the dead. I picked it up. This time, I said hello before regret could interrupt. The call opened a memory. Ha-rin sat in her room with the phone in her hand. Ordinary room, ordinary light. That made it unbearable. She called me while her mirror glowed behind her. She had not called only because she was sad. She had called because something impossible had begun. I did not answer, so she entered alone. That fact entered my chest, like a key turned the wrong way. Ha-rin had been here, before me, before our group. The store had known my family longer than I had known the store. The memory showed Ha-rin facing 7 mirrors, 7 adult shadows, US. My sister had seen us before we met ourselves. She saw Taeo too. She tried to warn him. Ha-rin always helped people carry things, even when the thing was fate. It was annoying. It was her. Min-Ah stood beside me. She did not ask what I heard. She simply stayed. Some people apologize with words. Some people stay. Ha-rin followed the manager toward room 404. She looked smaller than I remembered. Or maybe guilt had made me too late to see her clearly. She could have gone home. Instead, she chose the 7 shadows. US. I wanted to be proud. I was mostly angry at how young she looked. The red phone formed in her hands. My missing symbol was never mine first. It was hers. The phone became a silver charm wrapped in red thread. Finally, my symbol. The store had waited until the wound was open enough to label. 6 symbols glowed now. One was still missing. The store had a cruel sense of progress. Then Seo-Ra's fist glowed. Jae-han saw it. Seo-Ra saw him see it. Our group had become very efficient at catching each other's secrets. Seo-Ra refused to open her hand. Nobody forced her. After everything we had seen, even curiosity had learned manners. The lights flickered. Closing time again. The store had excellent timing and no compassion for processing time. The mannequin guests stood up and blocked the exits. I admired their coordination and disliked everything else. The manager said the final symbol had to be returned before we could leave. Everyone looked at Seo-Ra's hand. Seo-Ra looked like she might fire the room. Seo-Ra stood in the center aisle. Ji-Hoon stayed near her. Not touching. He had learned the shape of permission. She opened her hand. Tiny baby socks glowed in her palm. Nobody spoke. Even Du-Yul understood silence, had a dress code. The hall shifted around her. For a moment the wedding aisle became a nursery. Seo-Ra's secret had refused to stay in its assigned room. Seo-Ra said she gave up a child and still did not know whether it was love or fear. The hall went very still. Even the mannequins behaved. The socks became a silver drawer pull. The final symbol. Seo-Ra looked like she wanted to negotiate with the universe. Professionally. All 7 symbols rose and aligned. A key formed above us. It was beautiful, which felt manipulative. The key descended between us. 1 wish. 7 people. Nobody reached first. That was either maturity or terror, likely terror. Du-Yul's hand moved first, then stopped. He looked at me. I did not say anything. Sometimes disappointment does the work. Min-Ah looked at the key, then at Taeyo's fading reflection. Wanting something does not make a person selfish. Taking it alone might. I saw Ha-rin reflected in the key. She shook her head. My sister had returned from death to tell me not to be stupid. Very on brand. The manager pointed behind the altar. A corridor appeared. Room 404 had finally decided to exist. Dramatic, but late. The mannequins bowed and cleared the aisle. I did not bow back. I was raised with limits. The key waited. Nobody touched it. Desire is easier when it remains theoretical. In the key, each of us saw something different. A sister, a fiancée, a child, a wife, a future, a reputation, a call. The key was not subtle. Seo-Ra lowered her hand. She did not take the key for someone who had built a life by taking control. This looked painful enough to count as surgery. Yoon-Soo stepped back too. He wanted one more dinner with his wife. He also understood that hunger can become theft. Du-Yul looked at the receipt instead of the key. For the first time, he looked less like a celebrity and more like a person. It suited him poorly but sincerely. Then, only Min-Ah and I remained closest. Taeo and Ha-rin reflected in the key between us. The store had arranged emotional blackmail with excellent composition. The key's light split between us. The manager waited. I hated how much the room understood story structure. Min-Ah and I stepped into the corridor together, not because we trusted each other completely, because neither of us trusted ourselves alone with that key. Min-Ah and I entered the corridor together. The key followed us. The manager stayed behind like a hotel employee, watching guests enter a room with terrible reviews. The others followed. Nobody said we should stay together. They just did. It was either trust or fear, with better manners. The corridor grew longer as we walked, no numbers, no signs, just doors pretending not to judge us. The first display showed Yoon-Soo a dinner table. His wife sat there, blurred and warm and impossible. The corridor had window shopping for grief. Yoon-Soo stepped back, not because he wanted it less, because wanting it too much had become dangerous. Yuri's display showed a full concert hall. Her younger self bowed at the piano. The applause looked expensive. That made it suspicious. Yuri smiled at the concert and lowered her hand. Later she said the audience was clapping too early. That was how she survived the temptation. Jae-Hyun's display showed the patient alive, holding a phone. The corridor knew exactly where to press. It had the bedside manner of a debt collector. Jae-Hoon touched the glass. Si-Rae stopped him. It was not soft. Exactly. Si-Rae's kindness often arrived wearing office shoes. Then Si-Ra saw an adult child turn toward her from a sunlit street. No accusation, no forgiveness, just possibility. Possibility is cruel because it behaves politely. Jae-Hyun looked away. Si-Rae noticed. She did not thank him. Her hand stopped shaking, which was probably her version of a speech. Yul's display showed a comeback stage. Cameras, applause. No scandal, no Haejin. The fantasy had excellent lighting and poor ethics. Then Haejin appeared in the glass behind him. Yul looked away from the comeback. It was the first useful thing he had done quickly. Min-Ah's display was not dramatic. Tai-Oh stood in a kitchen with 2 cups. That was worse. Ordinary happiness is the most violent fantasy. I wanted to stop her. I did not. There are moments when saving someone too early becomes another kind of theft. Tai-Oh turned toward her and smiled. Whether it was real or bait did not matter to Min-Ah's face. Her face believed first. Then Min-Ah stepped back. Slowly, like every inch cost her something. I had never respected a retreat more. My display showed Ha-Rin at breakfast. Not heaven, not a dramatic reunion, just breakfast. The corridor understood cruelty at a domestic level. Ha-Rin waved. I forgot the others were there. I forgot the key. I forgot every smart thing I had ever pretended to be. Min-Ah stopped my hand. Earlier, I had stopped her. This was becoming our relationship, preventing each other from making beautiful mistakes. The displays went dark. None of us had touched them. That felt like passing a test we had not studied for and did not want graded. The key moved forward. Apparently, refusing happiness was progress. Mirae Grand had a very adult reward system. At the end of the corridor, a door appeared. No number, no handle, of course. The room was called 404. Being findable was against its brand. The key did not unlock the door. It dissolved into it. The store disliked normal verbs. The door opened into white light. A service bell rang. After everything, room 404 greeted us like a complaint desk. Room 404 was a customer service counter in a white void. No throne, no altar. Just a bell. I hated that this made sense. The bell sat between us, one press, one wish. The universe had compressed moral disaster into a desk accessory. Receipts floated everywhere. Blank receipts. Sira looked personally wronged by the absence of documentation. Do-Yul looked for cameras. Jae-Hyun stared at him. In Do-Yul's defense, some people have trauma with audiences. This room had invisible ones. The manager appeared behind the counter with a receipt book. If capitalism survived the afterlife, this was proof. The manager asked what lost thing we wanted returned. No drama, no thunder, just customer service for grief. Nobody answered. 7 people who had wanted something badly enough to enter a dead store suddenly discovered grammar was difficult. Do-Yul started to speak, then stopped. That was progress. Small, but visible, without magnification. Yoon-Soo looked at his spoon charm and stayed back. He wanted one dinner. He also knew one dinner could cost 6 futures. Yuri stepped back too. She said no concert hall was worth becoming the kind of person who takes the only exit. Jae-Hyun did not ask for the call. He only held the receiver charm. Sometimes healing is not answering. Sometimes it is stopping the punishment. Ra stood closest after Min-Ah and me. Then she stepped back. She did not stop wanting. She stopped calling wanting a right. Min-Ah placed the rings on the counter. She did not press the bell. The restraint looked physically painful. Teo appeared in the counter reflection behind her. The room was cheating. It knew exactly when love becomes evidence. I placed Harin's phone charm beside Min-Ah's rings. 2 wishes on the counter. 1 bell, terrible math. The bell trembled between our objects. It wanted to be pressed. That made 3 of us. The manager opened the receipt book. A page glowed. Still blank. Even supernatural accounting avoided transparency. A receipt ribbon unfolded across the floor. No words, just a path. Apparently, the previous wish had a paper trail with commitment issues. We followed the receipt. Nobody asked whether that was wise. Our standards had lowered in a disciplined way. The path opened into Seoul at night. 7 scenes floated around us. 7 accidents that had not happened, or had happened elsewhere. Nobody breathed normally. One fragment showed me stepping into traffic while reading a client message, so that was flattering. Even my alternate death had poor work-life balance. Min-Ah saw herself entering a taxi that never reached court. She looked at the image like she wanted to sue fate retroactively. Yul saw himself fall from a stage rig. He did not joke. The absence of performance became its own confession. Mirae saw herself collapse alone in her office. No scandal, no witness. Just a calendar full of meetings that would continue without her. Jae-hin saw himself injured during an emergency. Even in the version where he died, he was trying to help. That made everyone look away. Yuri saw herself vanish into subway glass after an audition. She whispered that the outfit was accurate. That was not the part anyone wanted to discuss. Yoon-Soo saw himself fall asleep at a table for two and never wake up. It was the quietest death. That made it the loudest. The 7 fragments aligned. Same night, same hidden event. We were not only invited guests, we were survivors of something we did not remember surviving. Then Tae-oh appeared holding the old photo. Min-Ah took one step forward before she remembered the floor, might be emotionally armed. The memory showed Tae-oh at the counter before us. He had reached room 404. He had stood where we stood. Tae-oh pressed the bell. The sound was small, the consequence was not. He did not ask for Min-Ah back. He asked to return the 7 lives Mirae Grand had taken across broken timelines. U.S. Min-Ah heard the wish and understood. Tae-oh had not abandoned her. He had spent himself somewhere she could not follow. The price was simple and cruel. Tae-oh could save us, but he would be removed from the paths he repaired. He looked at Min-Ah through a mirror and did not touch it. Some goodbyes are careful, because touching would make them impossible. Then Haerin appeared beside him. She had witnessed the wish, maybe helped it. My sister had been involved in saving us before I knew we needed saving. Haerin tied a red thread from the phone to Tae-oh's wrist, a guideline, a receipt, a promise. The store loved objects, that meant too much. Tae-oh faded first. Haerin held the cord, like she could keep one piece of him from disappearing. The 7 deaths reversed. We lived, not because we were lucky, because someone paid before we arrived at the counter. Min-Ah saw his things fade from her apartment. Not all at once, one by one, like reality was tidying up a love story. Then I saw Haerin remain after Tae-oh disappeared. She had not simply visited the store. She had stayed inside its machinery. The phone cord spread into 7 mirrors. Haerin became the line connecting us. My unanswered call had become everyone's warning system. The manager watched Haerin and the mask cracked, just a little, enough to prove the manager was not only policy, there was guilt in there. When the memory ended, no one spoke. There are truths too large for immediate commentary, even for me. The receipt path returned us to the counter. The bell still waited. This was rude. We had learned the cost, and the system still wanted a customer. The bell still worked. Knowing the cost did not disable the offer. That was the worst part. Temptation enjoys informed consent. The manager confirmed one wish remained available. One return. One price. The tone was polite. The content was monstrous. We argued, not loudly at first, then loudly. The question was simple. After knowing the price, could any wish still be moral? Du-yul said, he did not deserve the wish. He looked at me when he said it. I disliked becoming a moral landmark, but here we were. Sierra said she would find the child in the real world, if the child wanted to be found, that if mattered, it cost her. Yoon, Soo, Yu-Rai, and Jae-hoon stepped back. 3 wishes refused in silence. It did not feel heroic. It felt expensive. Then, it was Min-Ah and me again. Tae-oh and Haerin sat between us in the shape of a bell. Min-Ah asked if I would bring Haerin back if nobody else paid. It was an unfair question because the honest answer came too fast. I said yes, if no one paid, I would bring Haerin back. I did not dress it up. Some truths become worse when they wear good language. Min-Ah said she would bring Tae-oh back too. The bell rang by itself. Apparently, room 404 accepted mutual selfish honesty as a valid input. The bell rang a second time. Nobody touched it. Room 404 apparently accepted confession as a down payment and poor judgment as collateral. The counter split in 21 for Min-Ah, 1 for me. The room had made individual service desks for our worst impulses. The others were pushed behind glass, not gone, just separated. Room 404 had excellent crowd control and terrible ethics. The manager said the room would show us the cost before we could press the bell. I appreciated informed consent. I distrusted the provider. My counter filled with morning light. Haerin's charm floated over the bell. The room had chosen breakfast lighting because it was cruel with taste. Min-Ah's counter glowed like a kitchen at night. 2 rings hovered above her bell. The room understood ordinary happiness too well. I saw Haerin across a breakfast table. No glowing portals, no dramatic music. Just my sister asking if I wanted more rice. I almost lost the trial immediately. She laughed. Not angelic, not symbolic. Just Haerin laughing because I had spilled soup on my sleeve. The room was fighting dirty. Then the mirror cracked behind her. Room 404 appeared in the glass. Even fantasy could not hold the lie for more than 1 peaceful minute. The cost appeared. If Haerin came back, Min-Ah would forget Tae-oh completely, not mourn him, not search for him, just lose the shape of him. The red thread snapped. Bringing Haerin back would cut the line she had become. It would save my sister by deleting what she chose to protect. I came back to the counter with my hand half raised. I hated myself for how close it had been. Min-Ah saw Tae-oh in the kitchen, 2 cups. Same smile, no explanation. The fantasy did not need sophistication. It had her history. Tae-oh reached for her hand. Min-Ah looked like every year of waiting had become a single breath. Then, Min-Ah saw the cost. Hae-rin would vanish from the red phone system. My sister would pay for Taeyo's return. She saw me in the office, holding a silent red phone, no longer knowing whose voice I had lost. Min-Ah looked away first. Min-Ah came back from her preview and looked at me. She did not need to explain. The room had made us each other's cost. Behind the glass, the others began pushing back. The wall cracked. Found family apparently includes property damage. CS, Ra used her symbol like a tool and hit the glass. She had turned maternal grief into building maintenance. I admired the range. The glass shattered without sound. The others stepped through. Room 404 had tried to isolate us. It had underestimated adults with unresolved issues and blunt objects. The group stood between us and the counters. Nobody gave a speech. They simply became inconvenient furniture in front of disaster. Yoon-soo said a wish that makes someone else pay is not a return. It is a purchase. Food critics can be devastating when they leave restaurants. Uri said perfect lives can still be traps if the living becomes smaller inside them. She said it like a piano teacher, correcting posture. Jae-hyun said, erasing someone else's grief is not healing. Doctors have an unfair advantage in saying things that sound medically and morally correct. Do-yul said, taking the easy version was how he ruined someone else's life once. It was the first time his guilt became helpful. Se-ra said, none of us had the right to convert private regret into group debt. I disliked how much better she was at wording my job than I was. I lowered my hand. Wanting Hae-rin back did not disappear. It just stopped driving. Min-Ah moved the rings away from the bell. She did it slowly. Some decisions deserve witnesses. All 7 symbols rested around the bell. Nobody pressed it. For once, the most powerful thing in the room was restraint. The bell darkened. The room did not like being refused. Honestly, relatable. Still dangerous. The manager said refusing the wish did not close room 404. The debt remained. Of course it did. Bureaucracy survives moral growth. The receipts overhead turned black. This is rarely a positive administrative development. Ra demanded an alternative. She sounded like she was negotiating with a vendor. The vendor happened to manage metaphysical debt. The manager said there was one alternative: return what the store lost first. The wording made every adult in the room suspicious. Good. I asked what the store lost before any of us. The manager went still. Not normal still, caught still. The mask cracked. Just a thin line, but the room reacted like a secret had been struck with a hammer. Min-Ah whispered the missing heiress the sealed records. The child from the incident. The room did not deny it. The manager did not answer. Silence, used by guilty systems, has a very specific smell. Uri said, maybe the store lost a name. She said it softly. The crack in the mask widened. The white room darkened at the edges. Room 404 did not like this conversation. That made it the correct conversation. Silver memory spilled from the receipt book. The counter finally leaked. Customer service had lost containment. The memory showed a girl in Mirae Grand before the curse. Lee Hae-won, the missing heiress, small, polished, and already lonely. Hae-won stood alone while adults celebrated the store. Expensive loneliness has better lighting, not better outcomes. She loved the customer service counter. People came there because something was missing. Staff made things return. A child can misunderstand power beautifully. Then she found the mirror floor. Reflections moved without bodies. A sensible child would leave. Hae-won was lonely, not sensible. In one mirror, she saw her mother. The store did not invent temptation for us. It learned on a child. Hae-won touched the mirror. That was the first door. Not built by engineers, opened by grief. The first room, 404, was smaller. A lost and found counter in darkness. A child had turned customer service into prayer. She pressed the bell with both hands. The first wish was not evil. That somehow made everything worse. The mirrors shattered through the real store. The wish pulled too hard. Mirae Grand began breaking around her. Hae-won became trapped between reflections. The missing heiress was not taken by a person. She was kept by a wish. The silver moth mask formed over her face. The store returned what was lost by taking what was left. Her name. We watched Hae-won become the manager. Anger did not vanish. It just gained context, which is often more inconvenient. Min-Ah said the name, Lee Hae-won. The mask cracked again. A name can be a weapon. It can also be first aid. The manager lowered their head. For the first time, the uniform looked too large. Behind the manager, Hae-won's child shadow appeared. The role and the girl were no longer perfectly aligned. I asked if Hae-won's name was the thing the store lost first. The manager did not answer quickly. That meant yes, or something worse than yes. The manager said a name is not enough. A name needs a witness. Mirae Grand did not want facts. It wanted someone to remember correctly. Saxi, Ra and Uri checked the receipt book. Hae-won's page was blank. A missing child with no record. Even the curse had bureaucracy problems. Then, Harin's charm reacted to the blank page. My sister appeared in the reflection and looked toward the receipt book. She knew the witness. A red thread emerged from Harin's charm and stretched out of room 404. Apparently, my sister had left us directions. Very responsible, very painful. The manager stepped in front of the thread. That was new. The guide was afraid of the map. Min-Ah told the manager that hiding the witness kept Haiwan trapped. She sounded like a lawyer, and unfortunately for the manager, like she cared. The manager stepped aside. Not approval, not surrender, more like a door, remembering it was once open. We followed the thread back through the corridor. The displays stayed dark. Either we had passed the test, or the store had run out of emotional budget. Ha-rin appeared in the glass and pointed ahead. I wanted to stop. She wanted us to continue. The dead can be very bossy when they are right. Min-Ah walked beside me and said nothing. She had seen enough to know silence could be more useful than comfort. The thread crossed the wedding hall. The mannequins stayed seated. This was appreciated. Their earlier performance had not earned an encore. The manager lingered near the altar. For the first time, the store looked too big for the person running it. The thread led away from wedding halls and counters toward the old toy floor. That made sense. Haewon's story had started as a child's loss. The toy floor was dark. Plush animals watched from shelves. A carousel horse stood still in the center. Childhood, as curated by a curse. A memory of Haewon ran past us between the shelves. She looked like a child playing hide-and-seek, with a building that never stopped counting. Yuri heard a music box. Yoon-soo found a toy tea set arranged for two. The witness was not an adult record, it was a playmate. Do-yeol saw his father in a memory echo near the entrance. Suddenly, his old map felt less like evidence and more like inheritance. Sierra stopped at a child-sized coat. Ji-Hoon steadied the rack before it fell. He did not look at her face. He had become very good at kindness with boundaries. The thread ended at a miniature playhouse with a mirror door. 7 adults stared at it. The architecture had become personally insulting. I knelt before the tiny mirror. Heron appeared inside it with another child. The witness had been hiding at the size of a memory. Min-Ah knelt beside me. She studied the second child, like a case file with a heartbeat. The second child turned. Lee Hae-won. Not the manager, not the mask. The girl before the store learned to use her as furniture. The mirror opened into a child's room. The red thread pulled tight. We had found the witness, or the place where the witness had been broken. The playhouse mirror opened. It was child-sized, which made 7 adults immediately look less heroic and more like people who should stretch before metaphysics. I touched the thread. The mirror widened. Ha-rin had apparently included accessibility features, which was thoughtful and emotionally devastating. Min-Ah and I stepped through first. The room smelled like dust, old fabric, and a childhood that had been paused too long. The others came through. 7 adults stood among oversized toys. Do-yeol looked personally attacked by the teddy bear arrangement. Yuri and Yoon-soo found 2 cushions beside a toy tea set. Not 1, 2. Loneliness had company here once. A memory appeared. Ha-rin and Habi-won sat together at the tea set. My sister had found the missing heiress before any archive did. Haewon looked suspicious of kindness. That made sense. Rich adults had surrounded her. Trust must have seemed like a luxury item. Ha-rin did not demand answers. She pointed to the mirror and waited. She had always known how to help without making it look like charity. I watched Ha-rin comfort Haewon. Pride and guilt arrived together. They did not coordinate. It was crowded. Min-Ah stood beside me. No advice, no analysis, just presence. From her, that was practically a handwritten letter. The girls played a name game with blank blocks, no letters, but Haewon pointed to herself and smiled. A name does not begin on paper, it begins with someone hearing it. Haewon said her name. Ha-rin listened, like it mattered. That was the witness the store could not manufacture. The red thread appeared between them, not from the phone yet. From the name, Ha-rin had witnessed. Ha-won before witnessing any wish. We understood then, Ha-rin was Ha-won's witness, not a record, not a receipt, a person who heard her name and remembered it. The memory shifted. Mirror cracks spread across the walls. The playroom stopped being a refuge and became the beginning of the trap. Haewon was pulled toward the mirror. Ha-rin held on. My sister had always been small, but she had never been weak. The red phone appeared beside Ha-rin. The witness bond became a line became a phone. The store kept turning love into equipment. The mask shadow covered Haewon's face. The blank blocks dissolved. The store was not only trapping her body, it was taking the witnessable part of her. Rin promised to remember Haewon's name. She said it like a child, which made it more binding than any contract. Then Rin was pulled into the red phone system. Haewon vanished into the mask. 2 children became 2 functions. The store called that balance. The memory faded. The room stayed. The red thread glowed brighter. Nobody moved for a moment. Even Do-yeol had the good sense to be quiet. I touched the thread where Ha-rin vanished. It was warm. I hated that. Warm things should be alive. Min-Ah knelt beside me. Her hand stopped near the thread, not on mine. She had become very good at standing close without taking space. Rai found the blocks glowing again. Still no letters. Ra looked offended that the evidence refused to become a spreadsheet. Yoon-soo quietly set the toy cups upright. Nobody asked why. Repair is sometimes a habit before it becomes a plan. Do-yeol found a toy whistle under the table. His father's memory flickered behind it. The store was not done making him useful. The whistle showed Do-yeol's father, seeing Ha-won near the toy floor. Another witness. Or someone who had failed to become one. The memory showed his father turn away, ordered to ignore the child. paid to protect the store, not the person inside it. Du Yul looked at me, like guilt had become hereditary. I understood that too well to judge quickly. Sira said, Haewon needed two things, a living witness and a truthful record, not a wish, a correction. Min-Ah said a record requires testimony. Someone alive had to say what the store erased. Her voice made the toy room feel like a courtroom. Du Yul understood before anyone said it. His father might be the living witness. The man who turned away might still remember enough to turn back. Du Yul refused first. He said his father barely remembered anything. Jae-hun did not argue. Doctors know fear often enters the room before consent. I told Du Yul's silence was how both our families entered this store. It was unfair. It was also true. I am learning those often travel together. Du Yul picked up the whistle and said he would ask. He looked terrified. That made the promise more credible. The blank blocks lifted and formed a little doorway. No words, just shape. The store had accepted the plan, which made me nervous. Haewon's shadow and Heron's reflection pointed toward the exit. The living had homework now. We followed the thread out. This time, we were not chasing a wish. We were carrying an assignment. The manager waited outside. The mask was more cracked now. Haewon was listening from under the uniform. Min-Ah told the manager we would find the living witness. Not wish for haba, not bargain. Testify. Correct. Return the name properly. The manager warned Du Yul that remembering could hurt his father. Of course it could. Truth rarely comes with padding. Du Yul asked Jae-hun to come with him. Not as a doctor only, as someone who could tell him when courage became harm. Yoon-soo gave Du Yul tea. Du Yul accepted, like he had forgotten adults could offer things without invoices. Se Ray assigned roles, contact the father, secure records, monitor the next opening. Haunted rescue had become a project plan. Everyone relaxed slightly. Yuri said the memory reacted when we cared for it, not just when we solved it. Min-Ah looked annoyed that compassion had evidentiary value. Harin appeared in a toy mirror and smiled, not free, not yet, but relieved. I did not touch the glass. I am counting that as growth. The lights dimmed, closing time. For once, nobody needed reminding twice. Trauma had improved our scheduling. The manager looked like they wanted to say something. The uniform won. Habon stayed quiet. We left with a task, not a wish. That felt less magical and more difficult, which usually means more honest. Morning came. None of us slept properly. Adults can survive on 3 hours of sleep, fear, and unresolved paperwork. Du Yul and Jae-hun went to the care home. Du Yul looked like a man walking into a confession booth with visiting hours. His father's room was small, old cap blank frames, a window with too much mourning. Memory loss makes rooms look organized. His father recognized him halfway. Du Yul smiled like half was plenty. It was not plenty. It was what they had. Du Yul placed the toy whistle on the table. It looked harmless. That is how dangerous memories prefer to arrive. His father's hand trembled. Jae-hoon watched his breathing. Courage becomes more complicated when it has blood pressure. His father whispered about the toy floor. A girl, a silver mirror. Du Yul stopped breathing first. Jae-hoon noticed, because of course he did. The window reflected, the old order: ignore the child, secure the floor, protect the store. Adults love making cruelty sound operational. Then his father said the name, Lee Hae-won, in the real world in daylight. The store was not present, and somehow the room changed anyway. His father weakened after saying it. Du Yul panicked. Jae-hoon moved faster than fear. Du Yul held his father's hand and stayed. No joke, no charm, just staying. It looked new on him. Du Yul called Min-Ah first. She listened, then became very still. Lawyers do not celebrate evidence, they mobilize it. Min-Ah prepared a statement. No magic, no bell, just paper, procedure, and a woman who knew how to make silence answerable. I wrote a statement too, for once, not to protect the powerful, to correct the record. My keyboard seemed confused by the promotion. Se Ray handled logistics, record retrieval, timing, contacts. For the first time, her efficiency felt like care with better shoes. Yuan, Sue, called old staff, former cooks, floor attendants, people who remembered smells better than headlines. Uri searched recital networks, parents, teachers, old accompanists. Quiet people collect contacts the way loud people collect excuses. Jae-hoon reported that Du Yul's father was stable. Stable is a small word doctors use when everyone wants a bigger miracle. Du Yul recorded the testimony with permission. He asked twice. That mattered. Consent looked good on him, if unfamiliar. After the recording, the window glowed silver. The store had heard daylight. That felt important and deeply intrusive. That evening, we held a group call. 7 tired adults, no agenda title, too many supernatural action items. Se Ra looked relieved anyway. Min-Ah explained the plan. Bring the testimony into Mirae Grand. Place it in the blank receipt book. Return Haewon's name through record and witness. Du Yul admitted he was afraid his father would forget him completely. Nobody corrected the fear. Some fears deserve witnesses too. Yoon-soo told him that staying after the testimony mattered more than being remembered perfectly. That sentence landed harder than advice usually gets to. Before midnight, I placed Haerin's charm beside the old photo. I wanted to save her first. I was learning she had taught me the order. Min-Ah packed Taeo's rings, not to wish him back, to carry the truth of him properly. There is a difference. It hurts either way. At midnight, the reflections opened again. This time, we carried testimony. The store had invited regrets. We were bringing witnesses. We returned to Mirae Grand with records, objects, and a plan. The lobby looked the same. We did not. The manager waited in the lobby and did not greet us. No welcome, no policy reminder. Customer service had finally lost morale. Do-Yul showed the recorder and the whistle. He did not smile. That made him look older, which suited the moment. When the testimony began playing, the mask cracked again. Lee Hae-won's name had returned to the building that buried it. The testimony played in the lobby. Lee Hae-won's name entered Mirae Grand in Daylight's voice. The chandelier trembled, like the building had heard something illegal. The floor rippled outward, not from magic words, exactly, from testimony. The store had no defense against someone finally saying what happened. Hae-won's child shadow appeared beside the manager. The shadow reached for the mask. The manager did not move away. The manager's hand shook, just once. It was the smallest rebellion I had ever seen, and somehow the loudest. Blank receipts fell from the ceiling and wrapped around the device. The store was trying to turn testimony into paperwork. It could misplace. Min-Ah tore the receipts away like a woman defeating bad clauses. Kang Do-Yul held the device with both hands and did not drop it. Progress continued. Harin appeared in the charm and pointed upward. Room 404 wanted the record. Or Harin wanted it there before the store could bury it again. C-Ray ordered us to move. Nobody questioned her. At some point, a haunted department store had made us accept project management as comfort. We climbed the escalators through a storm of receipts. I had never been physically attacked by accounting before. It was unpleasant. Do-Yul held the recorder to his chest. Jae-Hoon shielded him with his coat. The man who once hid a receipt was now protecting a record. The hidden wall refused to open. It sealed itself tighter, like a rich family refusing interviews. All 7 symbols glowed. The wall opened because this time the key was not desire. It was agreement. The testimony echoed through the service corridor. The walls carried the name badly at first, like a throat remembering speech. The manager followed at a distance, not leading, following. Hae-won was no longer only the door. She was becoming someone we could bring with us. We entered the glass elevator again. This time, nobody asked what truth it wanted. We had brought one with witnesses attached. The elevator rose without asking us to bleed emotionally. I almost missed the cruelty, almost. The wish displays stayed dark. No breakfasts, no kitchens, no applause. The corridor had lost leverage for the moment. The plain door appeared again. No number, no handle, still smug. The red thread and silver testimony, light merged at the doorway. Harin's witness and Do-Yul's father finally arrived in the same place. Room 404 waited with the receipt book open. The manager did not stand behind the counter this time. That mattered. Min-Ah opened the blank page. Do-Yul held the recorder beside it. The page waited, empty and guilty. Do-Yul placed the recorder and whistle on the counter. Not a symbol. Evidence. The distinction felt important enough to make the room uncomfortable. The testimony played again. The blank page rose from the book. It still showed no words, but the room was listening now. Silver marks appeared on the page, then dissolved before becoming letters. The record was trying to write back. The store was trying not to let it. Do-Yul held the recorder steady. His father's voice shook. Do-Yul's hands did not. That was new enough to notice. Min-Ah repeated the name, Lee Hae-won. This time, it was not accusation alone, it was record. I said hey, Rin, witnessed Hae-won's name. My sister's charm glowed. I did not say I wished her back. That took effort. The page stopped dissolving. Still no visible words, but the shape held. Sometimes record is not what we can read. It is what the system can no longer deny. Hae-won's shadow stepped out of the page, not free, clearer, like a memory coming into focus, after years underwater. Pieces of the mask fell. The manager reached for them, then stopped. Haki-won was closer than the roll now. The counter shook. Room 404 rejected the correction. Apparently, the system preferred paid returns to honest ones. Black receipts attacked the page. We did not discuss strategy. Everyone simply moved. Sometimes teamwork is just shared outrage. Seo pinned the page open with her symbol. Min-Ah shielded the book. It looked like litigation with special effects. Yu-Ri cut through the receipts with the piano key. Yoon-Soo held the counter steady. The room had underestimated quiet people again. The receipts went for the recorder. Do-Yul nearly panicked. Jae-Yoon kept the device clear and said something calm. Doctors are useful during supernatural paperwork. Harin's thread wrapped around the book. I held the charm and felt her choice moving through my hand. I did not deserve it. I still held on. The page flared bright enough to push the receipts back. Truth, when properly witnessed, had better range than expected. The book slammed shut around the record. For once, closing a file felt like justice instead of concealment. The counter cracked down the middle. Room 404 had accepted the record and hated it with its whole furniture. Then the floor opened into every department at once. The store had stopped arguing politely. Now, it was throwing architecture. Every department opened and pulled at its person. The store had learned our wounds and was now using them as handles. The apology office pulled me first. Min-Ah grabbed my sleeve. She did not say she was saving me. Again, she really committed to that brand. Then the wedding hall pulled her. I caught her wrist. At this point, our relationship had become reciprocal disaster prevention. We formed a chain, not symbolic, literal. Adults with back pain and emotional damage held the line. Yul pinned his receipt symbol to the floor. The man who once hid the clue used it as an anchor. Growth has visual irony. CS. Ra jammed her symbol into the counter crack. Yoon-Soo steadied her. She looked like she was fixing a universe with office hardware. Yuri struck the piano key against the counter. A silent ripple spread outward. She said the room was off-tempo. Honestly, fair. Yoon-Soo placed his spoon on the counter. The dinner table portal settled. Sometimes feeding a wound is not the same as obeying it. Jae-hun raised the receiver charm. The phones went silent. The call was not made. The punishment stopped anyway. Min-Ah held the rings to the wedding portal. The veil fell. She did not look relieved. Relief would have been disrespectful to how much it cost. I raised Harin's charm. Red light connected every symbol. My sister had turned 7 private regrets into 1 public witness stand. The portals stopped pulling. They became windows, evidence, not prisons. The store had lost another argument. Haewon's shadow separated from the manager, not fully, but enough for us to see the difference between the girl and the job. The manager's posture changed. The perfect employee disappeared for a second. A tired child stood inside the uniform. Toy blocks appeared around Haewon's shadow, no letters. The room still could not write her name, but it had stopped pretending no child existed. Yuri said the blocks did not need letters, they needed voices. I am starting to think piano teachers should run more investigations. We formed a circle and said her name together. Lee Hae, 17, adults, 1 child, 1 name the store could no longer keep misplaced. The blocks glowed, still blank, but the silence changed. The name was held by people, now, not paper alone. The customer service counter shrank into the little lost and found desk from Haewon's first memory. Room 404 was becoming its original mistake. A small bell waited on the tiny counter. The first mistake had returned to the place where it could be answered differently. Haewon stood across from the manager. The girl and the role looked at each other, like strangers who had shared one body too long. The manager removed 1 piece of the mask. Not the whole thing, just 1 piece. Freedom, apparently, also requires installments. Haewon placed her hand beside the bell and did not press it. The first wish had taken her. She would not repeat the motion blindly. The manager said the record was restored, but Haewon still needed living memories to leave. The store had kept her too long to release her on paperwork alone. 7 empty lights appeared around Haewon. Naturally, there were 7 of us. The store was not subtle. It had never been subtle. Seo asked the practical question, would giving memories mean forgetting Mirae Grand? Even in crisis, she respected risk disclosure. The manager said each of us had to give 1 true memory of being seen. Not regret, not loss, connection. The store sounded unfamiliar with the concept. I understood which memory I had to give. Not the missed call, something earlier, something kinder. Somehow, that scared me more. Min-Ah saw Tayo in 1 empty light, not disappearing, not sacrificing, just smiling at her in the rain like she was easy to love. Yul saw his father watching him perform as a child, not as a star, as a son. That hit him harder than applause ever had. Ra saw the newborn placed in her arms. 1 minute where someone needed her before fear became paperwork. Jae-Hoon saw a patient thank him before everything went wrong, not for saving a life. For being there. Doctors rarely know what that costs and gives. Yuri saw a student watching her play, not judging, not ranking, just listening. It was a smaller stage, maybe a better one. Yoon-Soo saw his wife taste his cooking and laugh. For once, he smiled before he cried. The order mattered. 7 lights gathered around Haewon. Not wounds, not wishes. Memories of being seen. The store looked confused by kindness. The manager warned us the memories might lose some warmth after we gave them. Not vanish. Cool, that was the price. Smaller than a life. Still real. Nobody stepped away. No speech, no heroic pose. Just 7 adults agreeing to lose a little warmth, so 1 child could stop being a uniform. Min-Ah looked at me. I looked back. We had not fixed anything between us. We had simply stopped making each other pay. The lights moved toward Haewon. The bell stayed untouched. For the first time, room 404 was returning something without being paid in damage. Haewon's shadow became solid. The manager's mask split behind them. Haerin appeared in the red thread. The rescue had started. The price had not finished speaking. The memory lights moved toward Haewon, not violently, not like theft, more like 7 people, placing something warm into cold hands. My memory was Haerin fixing my tie before a school event. She said I looked unemployed. I was 14. She was not entirely wrong. When the memory left me, it did not vanish. It cooled. I could still see Haerin. I just felt the distance more clearly. Min-Ah's memory was Tayo, holding an umbrella over her in the rain. Not dramatic. Just one person noticing she was tired before she said it. Min-Ah gave the memory. Her hand stayed steady. Her eyes did not. Some victories are impolite enough to hurt. Do-Yul's memory was his father watching him perform as a child, not clapping loudly, just watching like the boy mattered before the cameras did. Do-Yul gave it away and gripped the whistle, like it could keep the warmth from leaving completely. It could not. He stayed anyway. Sera's memory was 1 minute with the newborn in her arms. 1 minute before fear, paperwork, and adult reasoning arrived with clean shoes. Sera gave the memory. Jae-hyo stood near her and did nothing heroic. Sometimes the correct action is not interrupting pain. Jae-hyun's memory was a patient thanking him for staying, not for saving, staying. Doctors hear that word differently. Jae-hyun gave the memory away. His face changed after lighter, maybe, or simply less alone inside the same weight. Yurai's memory was a student listening to her play after class. No stage, no judges, just attention that did not require victory. Yurai gave it away and smiled sadly. She said nothing. The piano key glowed softer, as if it had finally stopped competing. Yoon-Soo's memory was his wife laughing at his cooking. He smiled first this time. The order mattered, and everyone noticed without saying so. Yoon-Soo gave the memory. The warmth cooled in him, but the shape remained. He whispered that taste changes and still belongs to you. The 7 lights settled inside Habi-won. Her shadow became a child, not a symbol, not a manager, a child. Hae-won breathed. The manager staggered. The store had been using one child as a job title for years. Now, the job was losing its employee. Half the mask fell onto the counter. Nobody picked it up. For once, the correct response to broken things was not immediate repair. Hae-won touched the mask piece like it belonged to someone else. Maybe that was the point. It finally did. Then, Ha-rin flickered. Of course, the rescue had not finished speaking. It never does when your heart is already standing up. The red thread frayed around Ha-rin. Ha-won reached toward her, but the thread had begun pulling my sister away from the room. I reached for Ha-rin and stopped. Touching the thread might pull her back into the job we were trying to end. I hated learning restraint this late. Min-Ah held my sleeve, lightly this time, not pulling, just reminding me I was not alone with the decision. The manager's uniform began hollowing out. Hae-won stood solid. The role had been a cage. Now, it was an empty coat looking for another body. The broken mask rose from the counter, no face behind it, just the job looking for an applicant no one had interviewed for. The small bell rang by itself. The memory lights dimmed. Room 404 had found a new invoice. The mask turned toward each of us, slowly, like a recruiter with no ethics and excellent dental insurance. Se-Ra understood first. The store wanted a replacement manager. It did not want justice. It wanted staffing continuity. Do-Yul whispered that even cursed stores had staffing problems. Nobody laughed. It was accurate, which made it worse. Then the mask turned to me. Ha-rin's charm pulled upward. I understood the offer before anyone said it. Take the role, keep the line, save my sister. The mask showed me a future. I wore it. Hey, Rin walked free. The offer was disgusting because it was beautiful. Min-Ah saw the other half. If I took the mask, everyone would leave, and then everyone would forget my face. The store called that balance. Min-Ah looked ready to object violently. Min-Ah stepped between me and the mask. She said no, just no. It was the best legal argument I had ever heard. Then the mask turned toward Min-Ah. The store had the survival instinct of a cockroach and the morals of a contract loophole. The mask offered Min-Ah the same deal. Wear it, restore, Teo, disappear, politely. Room 404 had learned personalized marketing. I stepped beside her and raised Ha-rin's charm. I did not say no for her. I said no with her. The others stepped in too. 7 adults around one mask. The store could not find a volunteer because it had accidentally created a union. See, Ra said, no one would replace Hae-won. Not me, not Min-Ah, not anyone. Her voice had the tone of final notice. The bell rang violently. Hae-won covered her ears. That settled it for me. Any system that frightens the child it used deserves demolition. Cracks spread through room 404. The counter shook. The mask spun above us. The store had mistaken refusal for a negotiation delay. Yuri listened to the bell. She said the rhythm matched the backward wedding music. No one asked how that helped yet. We had learned to trust ominous music theory. Yuri said, the mask was the role, but the bell was the anchor. Destroy the bell. End the hiring problem. See, Ray changed the plan instantly. Stop the mask. Break the bell. Evacuate child. Honestly, she would have been terrifying in retail management. The black receipts wrapped around the bell to protect it. Paper defending paperwork. Very on brand. Do-Yul used his receipt symbol to tear the receipts. There was poetry in that. Do-Yul did not notice. Good. Yuri struck the bell on the wrong beat. Her words, not mine. The bell cracked. The cracked bell sent light through every department. The store screamed without sound. It was somehow less dignified than I expected. Jae-hoon pressed the receiver charm to the bell. The ringing softened. Even now, he treated the enemy like a patient. Yoon-Soo held the bell steady with the spoon. He said tools are tools. I decided not to argue culinary ethics during demolition. Sekijera hooked her drawer, pole under the bell and lifted. She looked like she was removing defective hardware from reality. Min-Ah used the rings to hold the crack open. Taeyo's return would not be bought. His rings would help break the price counter. I wrapped Ha-rin's thread around the bell. Her reflection appeared in the red light. She looked proud, which was rude and effective. All 7 symbols touched the bell, 7 regrets, 7 refusals. 1. Very unpopular desk accessory. Then, Haiwan placed her hand over ours. The child the system used became part of ending it. Haerin appeared on the bell's surface beside Haewan's hand. The witness and the lost child together, they looked less like victims and more like the answer. The bell shattered into silver light. No blood, no bargain, no replacement, just the sound of a system losing its favorite verb. The mask stopped spinning and fell onto the counter. It looked smaller without authority. Most things do. Room 404 filled with sunrise light. Not the artificial kind from the displays. Real warmth, or close enough that my body believed it. Haewan smiled. Small, unpracticed, like a child trying to remember what her face was for. Harin's thread stabilized, then thinned into the sunrise light. The system was ending. So was the line that held her near us. One last receipt rose from the little counter, still blank. The store had lost many things. It seemed to be checking inventory. The receipt opened into 2 doors, no labels. Naturally, room 404 remained allergic to clarity until the end. Hawan's door showed a sunlit room, not the store, not the counter. A room where she might exist without serving anyone. Harin's door did not show home. It showed a path of light. I understood before I accepted. Those are different events. I shook my head. Mature, thoughtful, emotionally advanced response. Just no, very clear, very useless. Haerin smiled at me, not apologetic, not sad enough for my liking. She had always been inconsiderate about being brave. Min-Ah stood beside me. Her hand hovered near my sleeve and stayed there. She let me choose the goodbye myself. I told Harin I was not ready. I did not ask her to stay. That distinction nearly killed me. Harin pointed at the charm in my hand. The thread could end. The memory did not have to. The red thread dissolved. The phone charm stayed silver in my palm. No line to the store. Just memory. Smaller. Safer. Mine. Haewan and Haerin faced each other. No dramatic speech, just 2 children who had held the line long enough. Haewan bowed to Haerin. Very formal, very small. It made several adults pretend to look elsewhere. Haerin bowed back, like she was accepting an award for causing emotional damage. I would have laughed if breathing were easier. Haewan walked toward her door. We stepped aside. After everything, the best thing adults could do was get out of a child's way. She looked back at the mask once, not with fear, more like someone leaving an old room where she had been sick too long. Haewan stepped through the warm door and disappeared into light. No bargain, no replacement, just a child leaving work she never applied for. After Haewan left, Haerin's door began fading. I had known this was coming. Knowing did not help. Very little does. Harin looked at me one last time. I wanted to say everything. I said her name. Sometimes that is the whole sentence. Harin disappeared into the light. I did not reach. The charm stayed in my hand. The memory stayed where it belonged. Then, the little counter collapsed into silver dust. Both doors vanished. Room 404 began falling apart around us. Apparently, freedom still required evacuation. Room 404 started falling apart the moment Haewan and Haerin left. This felt rude, but structurally consistent. A crack opened between me and the others, because apparently, architecture had noticed my abandonment issues and wanted participation. Min-Ah reached across the crack. Not carefully, not strategically, just reached. I considered making a joke and decided to remain alive. I grabbed her hand. For once, no one called it logistics. Survival had become honest enough to be inconvenient. The others grabbed Min-Ah, and the chain pulled me back. 7 adults, 1 collapsing void, 0 workplace safety training. The symbols scattered across the floor. We had just broken a wish system and immediately created a cleanup problem. Very adult. C-Ray ordered us to collect the symbols before running. I respected the discipline and feared the woman. We picked up the symbols, not because they were wishes anymore, because they were evidence of what we had survived. Min-Ah grabbed the receipt book. Duyul protected the recorder. We were leaving with the record, because apparently we had become evidence smugglers. A cracked door appeared at the edge of the void. No label. Obviously, room 404 stayed committed to poor signage until death. We ran, not gracefully, not cinematically. Despite the setting, adults running in dress shoes is mostly commitment and poor traction. We crossed the door, and room 404 shattered behind us. I did not look back. This was maturity, not panic, probably. We landed in the corridor. The wish displays were gone. No kitchens, no breakfasts, no applause. The hallway looked embarrassed. Min-Ah checked the receipt book. The record still glowed inside. The correction had survived the collapse. I decided to believe that meant something good, reckless, but necessary. Duyul checked the recorder 3 times. Jae-Hyun let him. Some reassurance requires repetition and working batteries. The manager was gone. No uniform, no mask, no polite threat. The silence felt different, without customer service inside it. Then the corridor began unraveling from the far end. The store was not just damaged. It was retiring aggressively. We ran for the elevator behind us. The corridor unstitched itself. Mirae Grand had become a sweater from hell. Yuan-Su helped Yu-Ri over a torn section of carpet. He apologized for the lack of proper footing, as if he had hosted the collapse. Ray and Ji-Hoon shielded Min-Ah and the book. We had officially become people who protect paperwork from haunted weather. The elevator doors were jammed halfway open, because naturally, the building waited until escape to develop maintenance issues. Do-Yul, Yoon-Soo, and I forced the doors open. No riddles, no symbols, just shoulders and regret. We squeezed into the elevator, 7 adults, a sealed record, a testimony device, and very little space for dignity. The elevator dropped through the store, each floor flashed past us one last time. The building was not falling, it was remembering too quickly. The apology office passed first, every red phone dissolved, the silence did not accuse me, that was new. The wedding hall passed next, the veil folded itself on the altar. Min-Ah watched it like a chapter closing without permission. Do-Yul's green room passed. The mirror lights switched off one by one. He looked relieved, then scared of what he might be without lighting. Seo-Ra's nursery passed. The drawer stayed open, the mobile stopped spinning. She did not close it, that was the point. Ji-Hoon's corridor passed, the phone stopped vibrating, the call remained missed. The punishment finally ended. Yuri's concert hall passed, the empty seats became lights, no applause, just enough light to play. Yoon-Soo's table passed, one chair stayed empty and pulled out, not abandoned, reserved by memory. The toy floor passed last, the carousel horse moved once, then dissolved into sunrise. Haewon's room had found morning. Then, the elevator lights failed. I had just started trusting it, which was clearly my mistake. The elevator stopped between floors. The mirror gate glowed below us. The building had become very committed to last-minute inconvenience. The glass floor cracked under our feet. 7 adults immediately became experts in weight distribution. C-Ray began assigning weight positions. In that moment, I understood why companies fear competent women. Ri looked up before the cable snapped. She heard it first. Apparently, absolute pitch includes infrastructure. One cable snapped. The elevator dropped. Not far. Far enough for everyone to remember. Gravity's Ari Sum. Do-Yul jammed the toy whistle into the door track. Yoon-Soo held the door. Haewon's witness object had become an emergency tool. Respectable career pivot. The door opened to a narrow gap above the lobby balcony. Not safe, not elegant, but available, and we had become practical people. Ji-Hoon went first to check the balcony. Doctors walk into danger, with a very annoying calm. He signaled that the balcony could hold one person at a time. Ra immediately began organizing evacuation order. Of course. Ra made Min-Ah cross with the receipt book first. Min-Ah objected for half a second. The book won the argument. Min-Ah crossed with the book. She held it like evidence and like a child. Both readings were accurate. Yul crossed next with the recorder and whistle. He did not look down. This was wise and completely against human curiosity. Yuri crossed next. Yoon-Soo and Ji-Hoon handled both sides. It looked less like escape, and more like very dangerous etiquette. Yoon-Soo crossed after Uri. He thanked the elevator, which felt unnecessary, but emotionally consistent. Then only Ra and I were left in the elevator. She looked calm. I suspected this was a professional lie. Sarah shoved me toward the gap and told me to cross. I asked about her. She gave me the expression reserved for inefficient questions. I crossed. Min-Ah caught my arm on the balcony. She did not make a comment. Her grip did. The final cable snapped while Ra was still inside. For once her expression changed, only slightly, terrifyingly enough. Everyone reached for Ra. The elevator dropped. Time became extremely rude. Ji-Hoon caught her wrist. C-Ray looked shocked, as if being saved had not been approved in advance. We pulled C-Ray up together. She landed on the balcony and immediately tried to stand. Ji-Hoon told her not to. This was brave of him. The empty elevator fell into silver light. Nobody spoke. Even Do-Yul respected the moment, which means we were close to death indeed. Then the balcony cracked under us. Mirae Grand had not accepted one near death as sufficient punctuation. We ran down the stairs toward the mirror gate. The lobby broke around us. At least the staircase had the decency to be dramatic. The chandelier fell behind us and dissolved before impact. Even the building's final attack respected aesthetics. The counters vanished as we crossed the lobby. Perfume, jewelry, cosmetics. All the things Mirae Grand had dressed itself in to hide the lost child. The mirror gate flickered ahead. 7 exits. None stable. Mirae Grand had one last administrative complication. Each mirror showed one real-world exit. Office, courthouse. Apartment, hospital, piano academy, restaurant, executive tower. All dim, all cracking. Min-Ah raised the receipt book. One mirror steadied. The record was still the key. The store had finally become predictable, which was suspicious. Do-Yul played the testimony again. Another mirror steadied. The witness and the record were now emergency infrastructure. The symbols glowed. All 7 mirrors steadied. We had exits. Naturally, this made everyone hesitate. C-Ray assigned exit order. Protect the book. Protect the recorder. No one rush. It was the least romantic and most comforting thing I had heard all night. Yuri went first. She stepped into the piano academy mirror without looking back too long. A performer knows exits matter. Yoon pressed the spoon to his mirror and left. For a second, the restaurant behind him looked warm enough to forgive morning. Jae-hin checked Sirei once more before leaving. She told him to go. He obeyed slowly, which was his version of rebellion. Yul handed me a silver copy of the testimony before he left. He called it backup. Sira's influence had spread. Sesi. Ra made Min-Ah promise to carry the book out. Min-Ah promised. It sounded like a contract and a prayer sharing one sentence. Then, it was only Min-Ah and me. 2 mirrors left. 1 receipt book, too many things unsaid for a collapsing lobby. Min-Ah's mirror flickered. The receipt book pulled back toward the store. Of course, the evidence had separation anxiety. My mirror flickered too. Hey, Rin's charm went cold in my hand. Not dead cold. Morning cold. The kind you can carry. The receipt book opened by itself and pointed toward the basement archive. Min-Ah and I looked at the stairs. I considered resigning from the story. Min-Ah realized the record needed one final anchor from the archive. She sounded furious, which meant she was already going. We could leave. We did not. This was either character growth or a severe pattern of poor survival decisions. The 2 mirrors behind us began closing. I noticed Min-Ah noticed. Neither of us turned back. We went down to the archive with the book between us. The last time we entered that basement, water rose. I hoped the store had retired repetition. I was wrong often. Silver water glowed under the archive door. The store had not retired repetition. It had upgraded the leak. The archive door opened. Ha-Rin stood inside the silver water. Tai-O stood beside her. Neither looked trapped. Both looked like they had been waiting for us to finish being brave. Ha-Rin and Tai-O stood inside the archive water, not trapped, not returned, waiting. Apparently, dead people can have better timing than the living. We stepped into the silver water. It reached our ankles and immediately showed us things we had not asked to remember. The archive had poor boundaries. Hey, Rin pointed to a box under a fallen shelf. Even after goodbye, she was still giving directions. Very responsible, very rude. Tai-O pointed to the same box from the other side. Min-Ah stared at him, like every unanswered year had suddenly learned to gesture. We found the box. The water began rising. The store, despite dying, remained committed to deadline pressure. I lifted the shelf. Min-Ah reached for the box. We were not elegant. We were useful. At this point, that felt intimate. Min-Ah pulled the box free while keeping the receipt book above water. Lawyers have many skills. Apparently, amphibious evidence handling is one of them. Inside the box was a small silver moth hairpin, not a key, not a weapon, just something a child once wore before the store, made the moth a mask. The hairpin reacted to the receipt book. Warm light spread across the water. The record had found the body of the truth. The water showed Ha-Won wearing the hairpin before the mask, before the role, before customer service became a prison. Then, the water showed Yul's father seeing Ha-Won drop it. The hairpin tied the testimony to something physical. The record stopped floating. It landed. Tai-O had found it before us. He hid it from the store. He had not only saved our lives, he had saved the receipt the store forgot to burn. Min-Ah saw him hide the hairpin. Tai-O had left her with silence, but he had filled the silence with work. Rin and Tai-O stood behind the hairpin. They did not ask to return. They asked us to finish what they had held open. Min-Ah placed the hairpin inside the receipt book. I held the pages steady. The record accepted the anchor like a lock, finally admitting it had a key. The book sealed itself. The light changed from silver to warm silver. That was not a technical description. It was the best my exhausted brain had. The water dropped. The archive stopped trying to drown us in context, progress. Ha-Rin stepped closer. The archive began turning transparent behind her. We had finished the record. Now there was nothing left to do except the part I hated. Tai-O stepped toward Min-Ah. Her rings glowed. She did not move toward him. She did not move away either. Ha-Rin and Tai-O stood together. The 2 people we had refused to reclaim had become the people helping us leave. Ha-Rin looked at the silver charm in my hand and smiled. No red thread, no phone line, just us, and the sentence I had avoided for years. I said, I was sorry. No explanation, no context, no professionally structured apology, just the words, finally doing their own work. Chapin reached toward the charm and stopped before touching my hand. It felt like forgiveness. It also felt like goodbye. I disliked the efficiency. She smiled like she was about to ask whether I had eaten. That was the smile I chose to keep. Tai-O faced Min-Ah. She opened her palm with the rings. She did not ask why anymore. She already knew the answer, and it still hurt. Min-Ah told him she waited, hated him, and loved him in the same life. It was the most honest thing I had heard in a room full of haunted records. Tai-O bowed, not enough to erase the years, enough to admit they existed. Min-Ah closed her hand around the rings and lowered them. She did not reach for him. That was love too. The kind nobody claps for. Our goodbyes happened side by side, not together exactly, but close enough that neither of us had to stand alone inside them. Then Ha-Rin and Tai-O pointed toward the stairs. The goodbyes were over. The evacuation portion of grief resumed. The archive shelves turned into sunlight. We ran through them. It was beautiful, inconvenient, and very likely unsafe. Behind us, the empty box sank. The hiding place had done its job. It could disappear now. We climbed the stairs as each step dissolved behind us. Mirae Grand had become very literal about not going back. We reached the lobby. The mirrors were almost closed. This was unfair, but at least the building was consistent. Min-Ah's mirror was too small. The receipt book pulled toward it anyway. Evidence once again had no concern for human shoulders. My mirror was closing too. Hae-rin's charm glowed once. Faintly, not a warning. More like a suggestion I did not want to understand. The two mirrors pulled toward each other. The receipt book and phone charm glowed at the same time. The solution, annoyingly, involved cooperation. The mirrors merged into one exit. Office glass and courthouse glass overlapped. It was not romantic. It was structurally cooperative. The merged mirror pulled at the book and the charm, proof and memory. Of course we needed both. A record without memory is paperwork. Memory without record is a ghost. We had one shared exit and a floor collapsing behind us. Min-Ah looked at me. I looked at her. There was no time to discuss what this meant, which was convenient. Min-Ah pressed the receipt book against Hae-rin's charm. The two lights joined. It felt like the store finally understood the difference between proof and longing. The mirror cleared. Rainy Soul waited beyond it. No wedding hall, no office, no courthouse, just morning. The lobby columns dissolved. The grand store had become dust, light, and a very narrow opportunity. Min-Ah took my hand. This time, nobody was falling. No sleeve, no wrist, just her hand in mine, voluntarily making the situation worse for my pulse. We stepped into the mirror together. I expected cold glass. Instead, it felt like rain. Between worlds, rain fell upward and chandelier dust fell down. Physics had given up, but at least the exit was scenic. Behind us, Hae-rin and Tayo appeared one last time, fading, peaceful, annoyingly better at letting go than we were. They bowed slightly, like people closing a door properly. It was unbearable and beautiful and not ours to stop. The tunnel broke behind us. Hae-rin and Tayo were gone, not erased, gone forward, whatever forward means for people like them. We fell out of a puddle onto a Seoul street at dawn. After everything, the exit was ground level and humiliating. The puddle reflected only the sky. No lobby, no chandelier, no small mask manager, just sky. It felt too simple to trust. Min-Ah opened the book. The pages still glowed. The record had made it out. For once, evidence survived the building collapse. The hairpin rested inside the book. Real, cold under the rain, warm under the page light. Hwa's proof existed outside the store now. I looked at the silver phone charm. No red thread, no call, no miracle. Just something small enough to carry and heavy enough to change me. Min-Ah looked at the rings. Tayo was not back. He was no longer unexplained. Some absences become survivable only after truth enters them. We sat on the curb in the rain, the book between us, no store, no deadline, no one asking for a wish, just two adults looking impressively unemployed. Min-Ah laughed once, small, exhausted, possibly accidental. I considered documenting it as a rare atmospheric event. I almost laughed too. Then, I looked at the puddle again. Still, sky, still no store, still hard to believe. Our phones lit up messages from the others, alive, confused. Wet in different locations. Found family, distributed by reflection. The others had made it out, different mirrors, same dawn. Everyone alive, which felt statistically arrogant. Min-Ah stood first. Of course she did. She held the book like it had a court date. I stood beside her. The charm stayed in my hand. The book stayed in hers. We had survived a department store and accidentally formed a legal strategy. Yul arrived first, which none of us expected. He ran toward us, holding the recorder like a man delivering both evidence and blood pressure. Yul said. His father was alive. Ji-Hoon arrived behind him and confirmed it with the exhausted authority of a man who had earned breakfast. Yu, Rai, and Yoon-soo arrived next. Nobody hugged immediately. 7 adults stood in the rain and performed emotional buffering. We gathered around the book. The puddles reflected only sky. The city looked normal, which was inconsiderate after what we had been through. The hairpin glowed once in the book, not dramatic. More like a child checking that everyone was still there. We stood silently for Hwan, for Hae-rin, for Ta-Bio, for the people who became records because adults preferred convenience. Then Si-ra and Min-Ah began planning, legal filings, testimony, media timing. The curse had ended. The paperwork had not. I told Yul I would write the public correction, but his name had to stand beside the truth. He looked terrified. Then he nodded. Yul nodded without smiling. No joke, no charm. It was almost unsettling. Growth often is. Eventually, the group dispersed. Min-Ah and I walked in the same direction. Not discussed, not denied. Progress. Min-Ah said, I should not misunderstand the shared exit. I said I was blaming mirror logistics. She said that was acceptable. I almost smiled. Fine, I smiled. A little. The city did not collapse, which was encouraging. The rain stopped. Sunlight touched the pavement. Nothing was fixed. That was not the same as nothing changing. A puddle reflected only us walking past. No store, no mask, no chandelier. For once, glass behaved like glass. Min-Ah tucked the book under her coat. The legal battle would start after coffee, she said. I believed her about both parts. I put the phone charm in my pocket. Not hidden. Kept. There is a difference I had taken too long to learn. We crossed the street together. No confession, no kiss, no declaration, just the same direction, which felt dangerous enough. Behind us, a tiny moth-shaped light flickered in a shop window and disappeared. I decided not to tell Min-Ah immediately. We had earned 5 minutes without metaphors. By morning, we had relocated from a collapsing haunted department store to a cafe with bad chairs and acceptable coffee. This was an improvement, technically. Min-Ah unwrapped the book. C-Ray checked the room, like opposing counsel might crawl out of the pastry case. The hairpin still glowed. Nobody said good. We all breathed like it. Du-Yul placed the recorder beside the book. His hand shook once. Jae-hun noticed and did not make it an event. Yu-Ri and Yoon-Su arranged coffee for everyone. Apparently, after a curse ends, hydration and caffeine become the first civil institutions. Sira began the action plan. Legal submission, public statement, backup copies, medical follow-up, breakfast. The breakfast part was Yoon-Su's amendment. I told Du-Yul the statement had to include his silence. He nodded. He looked like a man agreeing to step on a stage with no lighting. Min-Ah and Sira divided the legal work. Watching them agree was like watching two knives decide to cut the same rope. We took a photo, not proof for court, proof for ourselves. Du-Yul asked whether his face looked ruined. Min-Ah said yes. He accepted it as moral balance. Min-Ah and I checked the window, normal street, normal rain, no store. Glass had finally returned to its job description. Du-Yul's phone rang. His father's care home. Everyone pretended not to listen, which is adult language for listening, respectfully. His father was stable. Du-Yul lowered the phone, like it weighed less than before, and more than ever. Jae-Hoon relaxed for the first time. C-Ray slid water toward him and looked elsewhere. Plausible deniability is her love language. Yu-Ri received a message from a student. She smiled at it before realizing we could see her. She then returned to being professionally neutral. Yoon-Su ordered food for everyone. No consultation, no democracy. Just nutritional dictatorship. We ate together. Nobody said it was healing. That would have made it awkward. It was breakfast, which was already ambitious. I set Harin's charm beside my coffee. It did nothing. I was disappointed, then relieved, then disappointed about being relieved. Min-Ah placed Taeyo's rings beside the book, not offering them, not hiding them, just letting them exist, beside the truth. Eventually, we left the cafe, not healed, not finished, but organized, caffeinated, and carrying enough proof to disturb several powerful dead people and some living ones. Min-Ah and I walked past glass buildings. Every reflection stayed normal. I never knew normal could be so suspiciously peaceful. I wrote the public correction, not an apology for a client, not damage control. For once, my words were not hired to make guilt look smaller. I deleted 3 elegant paragraphs. They were smooth, balanced, and cowardly. Old habits dress well. Min-Ah prepared the legal file. The hairpin entered an evidence pouch. It looked too small to hold a missing child, but it held enough. She recorded the affidavit summary. Her voice was calm enough to frighten paperwork. Du-Yul practiced in the mirror. Only his normal reflection looked back. He said that was worse. I believed him. Du-Yul visited his father before the statement. His father held the whistle and asked if it was important. Du-Yul said yes. That was enough. The press room was plain. Cameras waited. Du-Yul looked like a man walking voluntarily into bad lighting. I respected him more for it. I read the statement. My voice did not sound like my work voice. It sounded worse, meaning it sounded true. Then Du-Yul stepped forward. No smile, no charm, no apology crafted by me. Just his own name, attached to his own fault. Du-Yul confessed what he had let Hae-jin carry. The room changed, not forgiving him, hearing him. Hae-jin sat at the back. She did not smile. She did not cry. She did not owe the room a reaction. Min-Ah presented the hairpin. Small object. Large silence. Some evidence does not need size to make a room ashamed. The testimony played. Du-Yul's father's voice entered the public record. Not cleanly, not perfectly, but enough. The room went silent after the recording. I had spent years fearing hostile questions. Silence was worse. Better, both. I did not soften the ending. No appeal to misunderstanding. No unfortunate incident. A missing child. A hidden witness. A system protected by adults. Du-Yul bowed to Hae-jin, not the cameras. It did not fix anything. It finally faced the correct direction. Hae-jin left, without forgiving him. Good. Forgiveness should never be scheduled for public convenience. Du-Yul did not chase her. He let her leave. That restraint looked heavier than the confession. After the press event, Min-Ah and I stood in the hallway with the evidence between us. It felt like a strange third colleague. Min-Ah suggested coffee for practical reasons. I said I understood. She said I probably did not. That was also probably practical. Hae-jin's record began changing quietly. Officially, not enough to repay the years. Enough to stop adding more. Du-Yul took the awards off his shelf and placed the toy whistle there instead. It was not subtle. For him, that counted as restraint. Afterward, Du-Yul visited his father without asking for more memories. He just sat there. It was the least performative thing he had ever done. C-Ray opened a private search file for her child. Then she stopped before calling. The pause mattered. It meant she was thinking about the other person's life, not only her own wound. She took off her watch and placed it beside the drawer pull charm. For once, time was not something she could command. Ji-Hoon made a call from the hospital rooftop, not to repair the missed one, to answer the next one properly. He put the receiver charm in his locker, not hidden, accessible, a reminder, not a sentence. Rai returned to teaching. When a student played the wrong note, she listened before correcting. That was new. The student survived. After class, Rai played alone. No audience, no applause, no failure. Just music behaving like itself. Yoon-Soo cooked again, not for a review, not for a ghost, for people who had poor sleep and worse emotional diets. He set the table for us and left one small place empty, not haunted, honored. There is a difference in the arrangement. I wrote a resignation letter. It was shorter than most apologies I had written, more honest, too. I took Haren's old photo out of the drawer and put it beside the charm. It did not fix anything. It stopped hiding it. Min-Ah opened the wedding dress box. She did not cry immediately. She did not close it immediately either. Both were progress. She placed the rings in a drawer, not buried, not displayed, a place for memory that did not need to keep bleeding on the table. That night, Yoon-Soo fed everyone. No one called it a reunion. We arrived anyway. We raised cups without a toast. Toasts invite speeches. Speeches invite feelings. We were not ready to be reckless twice in 1 week. Do-Yul made a joke. Min-Ah looked at him. The joke apologized and left on its own. Se-Ra and Ji-Hoon discussed the care home follow-up. Very practical, very calm, extremely suspicious. Min-Ah sat beside me. Neither of us commented on it, which made the seating arrangement louder. A few days later, we visited the old Mirae Grand site. Nothing was there, just fencing, dust, and a normal amount of urban disappointment. Min-Ah and I checked a puddle. Only sky. She said that was sufficient. I said I had no legal objection. The hairpin warmed once near the site. Not enough to open anything, just enough to say the place had heard. We placed flowers near the fence. No plaque yet, no cameras. Just a private correction before the public one arrived. Do-Yul brought a photo of his father. Not for publicity, for witness. The difference mattered now. Yuri hummed a melody. No audience, no announcement. Even the traffic seemed to behave for a few seconds. I placed Haren's charm by the flowers, then picked it back up. I did not need to leave her there. She was not in the store anymore. Min-Ah touched the pocket where she kept Taeyo's rings. She did not take them out. Some memories do not need display to remain present. We walked away together. No reflection opened behind us. No child called from glass. Some doors stay closed because someone finally stopped needing them open. The record moved. Legal offices, press rooms, old archives. People who had once misplaced the truth suddenly had to find space for it. Eventually, a memorial went up. I will not describe the words. Some things deserve to exist without being turned into narration. The hairpin glowed once more when the memorial was placed. Not magic asking for attention. More like a child, exhaling. After everyone left, Min-Ah and I stayed. We did not say much. The silence had changed professions. It was no longer hiding anything. Min-Ah thanked me, plainly, while looking at the memorial, not me. I accepted the indirect delivery method. I thanked her back in the same tone, formal, controlled, emotionally, suspicious. She seemed to understand. Min-Ah suggested a walk. No case file. No emergency. No collapsing building. I almost asked whether she was feeling well. I accepted, calmly, like a man who had not survived a death's door only to panic at a walk. We walked past shop windows. Every reflection behaved. Min-Ah said, I was checking too much. I said quality assurance matters. Our hands almost touched while walking. Neither of us moved first. After everything, apparently we had become cautious about the most dangerous portal, emotional progress. Behind us, another tiny moth glimmer appeared in a window. This time, I saw Min-Ah notice it too. She did not stop walking, neither did I. The story spread, not the haunted parts. Obviously, people prefer corruption, negligence, missing records, and celebrity scandal. Easier to digest before lunch. Min-Ah and Se-Ra built an evidence wall. No red thread, no ghost receipts. Just documents, timelines, and two women making bureaucracy sweat. The hairpin sat in a protective case. It looked too delicate for the damage it had survived. Then again, so had several of us. Min-Ah reviewed Do-Yul's sworn statement. He looked like he wanted to charm the document. The document, fortunately, was immune. Do-Yul signed. His hand trembled less than before, not because it became easy, because he had stopped treating difficulty as an excuse. Hai-Jin read the correction alone. No cameras, no applause. The room gave her what public rooms often fail to give, privacy. She closed the file and did not call Do-Yul. That was also an answer. Not every restored record becomes a restored relationship. Do-Yul watched an old rehearsal video with the sound off. He held the whistle. For once, he did not watch himself first. He walked with his father in the care home garden and did not ask what he remembered. Staying had become enough work for one afternoon. Se-Ra wrote a first contact letter and did not send it. This restraint visibly irritated her, which made it meaningful. She placed the drawer pull charm beside the letter, a reminder, I think, not to open every drawer just because you know where it is. Jae-hyun called a patient's family promptly. No delay, no punishment. Just the next right thing, made before it could become a ghost. Later, he slept in a break room chair, a small miracle. Doctors call it a nap, survivors call it progress. Yoon hosted a tiny recital, no stage lights, no judges, just students, parents, and one teacher, trying not to measure the room by failure. After the recital, Yoon placed the piano key on the windowsill. It caught ordinary sunlight. She looked satisfied with ordinary, which is not ordinary at all. Yoon-soo rewrote his wife's recipe from memory. Not perfectly, he said. Then, he cooked it anyway. This was the correct order. He served the dish to regular customers. The empty chair stayed in the corner. It did not accuse him, it simply remained. I moved into a smaller office. No glass wall, no crisis clients. The rent was terrifying, but at least the reflections behaved. I started writing apologies for ordinary people, not to erase consequences, to help them face the right direction. The pay was worse. The sleep was better. Min-Ah visited with a case file and coffee. She said it was professional. The second coffee weakened her argument. She placed the coffee beside Harin's charm and avoided eye contact. A direct attack would have been less obvious. I thanked her. She said the cafe made an extra one. This was statistically unlikely, but I respected the witness's commitment to fiction. Min-Ah reviewed my draft with a red pen. She said it was honest but inefficient. This was the warmest feedback I had received all week. I accepted the edits. All of them. Min-Ah looked suspicious. Fair. Growth without notice is alarming. She smiled at the draft, not at me. I still counted it. I have become humble in my accounting. The window reflected the two of us at the desk. No store, no mask, just two adults and bad fluorescent lighting, trying its best. After the work was done, Min-Ah said this was not a date. She then stayed seated. I chose not to endanger the room with logic. I said the classification was noted. She said I should stop sounding like a meeting summary. I said I was adapting to counsel. Harin's charm caught the desk lamp. Not magic, reflection. I am learning to accept the difference. Min-Ah asked about Harin, carefully, like grief was evidence that could be damaged by fingerprints. I told her a small memory, Harin stealing my umbrella and returning it broken. It made no moral point, that was why it felt safe. Min-Ah told me, Tayo, once burned rice and called it experimental texture. Her face changed when she said it, softer, younger still, hers. Harin's charm and Tayo's ring sat on the desk. Neither replaced the other, neither asked to be removed. That felt like a treaty. Her hand rested near mine, not touching, close enough to be a decision, far enough to deny under questioning. Min-Ah moved first. Her fingers touched mine. No collapsing floor, no mirror gate, just the worst possible situation, free choice. I did not joke. I turned my hand over and held hers carefully. This may be my most reckless act on record. Min-Ah looked at our hands like the evidence had changed unexpectedly. She did not withdraw. I did not breathe loudly, which helped. Outside the window, a tiny moth light appeared. Neither of us moved. Some witnesses know when not to interrupt. Min-Ah noticed the glimmer. Her hand stayed in mine. That felt like an official ruling. The moth glimmer faded. The city stayed. Our hands stayed too. I filed this under developments, requiring further observation. A week later, we met for dinner on purpose. No emergency, no curse, no one trapped in glass. Attendance was suspiciously high. Yoon-soo served the small empty place first. Nobody explained it. Nobody needed to. Yul chose tea. He noticed me noticing. I pretended not to. We both handled it badly but kindly. Daisy, Ra had not sent the message yet. Jae-hyun sat beside her and did not ask whether she would. This was either medical training or excellent instincts. Then Si-rae sent it. She placed the phone face down, like it might explode. Everyone pretended not to notice. We are improving socially. Yuri mentioned the student recital, very quietly. Yoon-soo smiled like she had announced a national achievement. Someone made a comment about cursed elevators. We laughed. Not loudly. We are not reckless people. But it was real. Under the table, Min-Ah's hand rested near mine. This was not a public statement. It had better evidence standards. Then her fingers touched mine under the table. No mirror, no collapsing floor. Just the second data point in a developing case. I kept my hand still. Sometimes the bravest thing is not making a comment. I am rarely brave, so I noticed. Yul noticed. I saw him notice. He did not tease us. I began considering his redemption more seriously. A tiny moth light appeared outside the window. This time, no one panicked. Yoon-soo simply served another spoonful into the small bowl. The small bowl steamed faintly after the moth light faded. We did not discuss the physics. Some miracles deserve privacy and decent seasoning. We kept eating. The empty place stayed empty and included. That was enough. After dinner, we left together and then failed to separate efficiently. This is how groups become real. Poor exit management. Sierra's phone lit up. A reply. She froze. Jae-hyun did not ask to see it. This is why he keeps being allowed nearby. Sierra read the reply. She did not smile. She did not cry. Her shoulders dropped by 1 centimeter. That was a public celebration for her. Jae-hun walked beside her and asked nothing. Seo said the reply was practical. He said practical was good. They were both lying kindly. Yuri and Yoon discussed whether music could improve soup. I did not intervene. Some sciences must develop naturally. Du-yul stepped aside to call his father good night. The call was short, the courage was not. I returned to the office after dinner alone, but not in the old way. The difference is difficult to photograph, but it changes the room. I placed Ha-rin's charm beside her photo. The charm did not glow. The photo did not move. I appreciated their professionalism. I wrote Ha-rin a letter, not because she would read it, because I finally knew words do not need an audience to be honest. I folded the letter and placed it under the charm. No bell rang, no door opened. Good. Then someone knocked on the office door, a normal door, with hinges. I cannot overstate how comforting hinges had become. Min-Ah stood outside with takeout and a folder. She said she was passing nearby, at night with food for two. Seoul geography is mysterious. I opened the door wider and did not tease her. This was either maturity or hunger, possibly both. She saw the folded letter under Ha-rin's charm and did not ask. That was the question answered correctly. Min-Ah set the folder aside. Work could wait. She did not say that. The unopened folder did. We ate takeout at my desk. No cursed food court. No empty counters. Just oversalted soup and a silence that knew where to sit. Min-Ah said the takeout was better than the haunted food court. Completely straight face. I nearly proposed a formal commendation. I said the haunted food court had poor operating hours. She almost smiled. Almost is becoming an important category. The window reflected us eating takeout. No moth light. This time, no store. Just us. Somehow that felt like the bigger miracle. After the meal, Min-Ah reached across the desk. No emergency. No witness. No structural collapse. The danger was purely emotional. I held her hand. Properly this time. No rushing. No excuse. No mirror, demanding anything from us. Min-Ah looked at me directly. No courtroom distance. No defensive wording. It was unfairly effective. Neither of us confessed. Not yet. The silence did not feel like avoidance this time. It felt like space being made. Ha-rin's charm and Taeyo's ring rested on the desk. The past did not leave the room. It stopped standing between us. The office door stayed closed, not locked by magic, not waiting for midnight, just closed because we were inside, and that was enough. The window reflected only US, no castle of glass, no department store after midnight, just two people, still alive, learning what to do with morning.